Happy Tuesday, everybody, and welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. The show today and every day is brought to you by our friends at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main Street. They've got the big mammoth mural now on the side of the building. They've got freshly felted pool hall tables. They've got flat screen, big screen, giant screen, mega screen televisions with all your sports everywhere. They have cold beers on draft. They have a craft cocktail menu. And, of course, the food menu is absolutely fantastic. When you go to Big Willie's for a hot lunch, tell them that Sean O'Connell and ESPN 700 sent you. All right, I have a couple questions for our listeners right off the top. We're going to go with some low-hanging fruit today. Which Utah quarterback is going to start the game against West Virginia? Devin Dampier, Bird Ficklin, Isaac Wilson, who we haven't seen yet. Now, the reason I put both Bird Ficklin and Isaac Wilson as options is because there's been conversation about preserving red shirts for both of those guys. Bird is obviously a freshman. Isaac no longer is, but you can redshirt at any point in your career. If you think Devin Dampier can go, you play Devin Dampier. If you're worried about Devin Dampier's long-term health for the season, you probably make a calculation against a West Virginia team that is not going to roll over and soft belly and let you win, but also is not the toughest test you're going to face over the course of this remainder in the Big 12 season. So how do you make the calculation? How do you decide one way or another? Well, you're the coach today. 877-353-0700. At Real OC Sports, the poll questions are up. Which Utah football quarterback will start the game at West Virginia this week? So far, most people think it's going to be Dev. Bird Ficklin is getting a few. And whoa, James, right off the top of the show, we're 3 minutes in, and you're going to hit me with the breaking news?
Pete Thamel, because he has to be the newsbreaker. No one else can break news. He is reporting that Mike Gundy has been fired as Oklahoma State's head football coach. 21 years in to his tenure, right?
I'm a man. I'm 58 now. I think
he didn't make it to 60. That would have been so poetic. I'm a man. I'm 60.
Mike Gundy has been fired at Oklahoma State. Wow. That shows you that nobody is 100% safe. Now, as we were so focused on our own misery as Utah fans last year that people kind of forgot how bad it was at Oklahoma State. Because
so much worse.
It was
so much worse.
The injury bug decimated the University of Utah, right? Oklahoma State did not have anywhere near the number of injuries or the significant players injured, and they just disappeared.
They just were terrible. Ollie Gordon went from Doak Walker Award winner to, like, very average, if not below average. The other thing about that's crazy is, did you see Ollie Gordon running the ball against the Bills last Thursday? I'm like, yeah, Ollie Gordon's good again. Like, it makes you go, what happened?
It was a big problem. Oklahoma State in 2024 had the 14th best rushing offense in the conference. That is bad.
Yeah, if you don't say in the conference, that actually sounds pretty good. 14th best rushing offense.
14th best rushing offense out of 16 teams.
Oh.
And, by the way, Arizona and Colorado just didn't really even try to run the football. They're the only two teams ranked below them. That was an Oklahoma State Cowboys team that had the returning Doak Walker Award winner and a returning starting offensive line. Mike Gundy has mismanaged that situation. He has upset boosters. He has upset fan base. He has upset donors. He has upset players. And the mullet is gone.
The mullet is gone. Yeah.
Wow.
The other, there's somewhat of a parallel to the way Gundy got real emboldened to just tell people what he thinks about them criticizing him last year, which is part of why he got in trouble with the board last year, and they made some changes to his contract.
He got $1 million pay cut.
Yeah, they took some payout, they took some other things out that were in his contract because mainly because the team wasn't performing, but the other reason is because he was getting mad at fans for saying you guys suck. Why? And I bring that up to say Dabo's kind of going by the same playbook here with Clemson this year. If you're paying attention to what's going on in Clemson, and if I'm Dabo, I'm looking at what Mike Gundy did and what's happening with Mike Gundy and going, no one is invincible here.
Dabo is actually more vocal about it than Mike Gundy was.
Yeah.
Dabo is much more accomplished in his 16 years than Mike Gundy was in his 21 years, and that probably is what's keeping Dabo safe for now. And here's the thing. College football coaches, and regardless of what your feelings are about Kyle Whittingham, I know that there are a small contingent of people who think that Coach Witt is not the legend that the rest of us do. But Kyle Whittingham is self-aware. He is culturally aware. He's aware, right? And he knows that even if he wants to sit down, and I don't know if he wants to or not, he doesn't really seem like someone who has to prove a point like Dabo does. But Kyle Whittingham finds a way to exist in this Goldilocks zone for the most part, where he doesn't upset people even when he does upsetting things, if that makes sense. When Coach Witt was being close to the vest, secretive about the Cam Rising situation, that pissed off a lot of people, but he didn't say, well, guess what? Bleep you, the way that Mike Gundy does and the way that Dabo Swinney kind of does. And I think part of the reason for that is because he's an intelligent person, but Mike Gundy and Dabo by extension, but Mike Gundy is the one who's been fired already. Mike Gundy is so willing to prove his point that he seems to have forgotten, or maybe he hasn't forgotten, but he just doesn't care, that the power players in college football have changed drastically in the last 5 years. Not which program is good, not which team is best, not which conference holds all the sway. But it used to be 10 years ago, if you were a head coach on campus, you were a head football coach on campus, you were likely the most powerful and influential individual on your campus, right? If you're good at your job. Your university president is way up there. Obviously, your athletic director is way up there. But if you're like a Nick Saban type, you're the governor of Alabama, so you don't have to worry. Mike Gundy had a feeling that he was that way, but he's not at Oklahoma. He's at Oklahoma State, so he's not
he didn't win national championships or even that many Big 12 titles.
He was in a
State.
situation, Mike Gundy was, where he wanted so desperately to prove his point, or he got past the point of caring, to where he forgot that now your boosters, your NIL collective, your fan base that pays the bills to get the thrills, the folks that donate the money to pay the players, those people, and by the way, the administration of the athletic department that is now involved in the revenue sharing, those people have a different level of power than they used to have. It used to kind of be, hey, guess what? We're the football program. We fund everything that everybody does at this university in the athletic department. So I'm going to do things the way I want to do them. I'm going to say what I want to say as long as I'm winning. Now, you can't ruffle the feathers and lose at the same time. Even if you're Dabo, even if you're Mike Gundy, who's been in place for 21 years, and to be fair to Mike, has had a lot of success at Oklahoma State. He was always chasing Big Brother Oklahoma, chasing Big Brother Texas, but he put Oklahoma State on the map in a way that they weren't necessarily previous to his tenure, at least in modern football. And he deserves a lot of respect for having done that and for having so many guys move on to the NFL, and for even as recently as 2 seasons ago, having the best running back in the country. That is a development thing. That is a recruitment thing. That is a bonus for any coach when you've got somebody who's the best in the land at their individual position. Now, the follow-up has been an absolute disaster at Oklahoma State, and Mike Gundy has been fired because of it. The changing of the guard that has happened in the power structure on university campuses, where now if you've got the money, and T. Boone Pickens, who is the guy Oklahoma State's stadium is named after, oil tycoon who loved cowboy athletics, but never got to, he's deceased now. He's gone. His estate is still very generous to Oklahoma State, but he was the passionate one. He is the oil money Phil Knight.
The state may not be as generous as T. Boone was.
Well, they're not as passionate
because they're not as passionate, right?
We've seen this with the Millers, right?
Yeah,
like
it's true. That's a good analogy.
It is the passion project. The Utah Jazz were like the heartbeat for Larry. It was his stewardship, his service back to the community. He loved the Jazz. He was passionate about the Jazz. He's the one who made the sacrifices and took the risks to give this community the Jazz, and he reaped the reward. And guess what? It's not reasonable in most cases to think that the folks who took it for granted and who always had it were going to be as passionate about it. And that's and you know what? I think Ryan Smith is incredibly passionate about being the owner of the Jazz.
I think we're seeing something similar with Ryan Smith, but like in that brief tenure before Gale took over as more hands-on as the majority owner of the Jazz, if I remember correctly, when it was Larry's sons, it wasn't quite the same. Right? To your point.
When Jerry Jones dies, the son and daughter
Stephen Jones probably
are going to be like, yeah, we're passionate about the Cowboys because we've been involved in the Cowboys. Did you watch the thing on Netflix? Like Jerry Jones dreamt of being the Dallas Cowboys owner, being an NFL owner from the time he was in high school. Like, his kids never had that dream because that dream already existed for them, basically. This guy is different. T. Boone Pickens' estate is different. And we're getting into the business side of things, right, which is always boring, but what we need to be reminded occasionally, and what this is a good reminder of, is that results are the only thing that matters. Your tenure, the respect or lack of respect you have in your community, matters very, very little as long as you're getting results. Last year, Oklahoma State didn't get it done. This year, Oklahoma State is scoring 14 points a game and is just an embarrassment in the Big 12 Conference. We were sitting at Big 12 Media Days, 14 months ago, when they were like, yeah, Oklahoma State and Utah are the two favorites. And we were so wrapped up in our own misery.
They're playing each other.
That we forgot Oklahoma State had an even worse 2024 than Utah did. And the rebound that we expected at Utah, and we still expect at Utah, that is still possible at Utah, Oklahoma State has no such hope. There's no hope for a rebound at Oklahoma State under Mike Gundy. And now he's out. And that brings me to the most important point here. This is a really good job in college football. If you are another coordinator, if you are a rising star in the coaching world, Oklahoma State is a place you can win and you can be funded. They get a lot of kids out of Texas. Oklahoma is a fertile recruiting ground for high school players. There is still, even if the direct passion of T. Boone Pickens himself is not necessarily there in the community to offer you a bunch of money, there still is it's still an oil state. It's still an oil tycoon state. This is a really good job. This is a really good opening. And I say it with every good job that's open. Jay Hill.
That might be more realistic for him. That might be a more realistic job for Jay Hill to go to than the UCLA job. That's a lot around here. People are saying Jay Hill to UCLA because that was one of the first that opened up. But
I don't think Jay Hill to Virginia Tech is even a possibility. I don't think Jay Hill to UCLA makes a ton of sense.
I feel like UCLA is going to look for a splashier
think,
hire than Jay Hill, even though Jay Hill might be
UCLA
the better
would
hire.
rather have Kalani, and Kalani's going to say no.
Yeah.
And if Kalani left for UCLA, then Jay could take over at BYU, and then everyone's happy. But Kalani's not going to take the UCLA job. So look, Oklahoma State, and it's not – we regionalize all these things, and when we localize all these things, Jay Hill's not going to be the only candidate.
Absolutely not.
But that's a phone call that you got to make at Oklahoma State. If the BYU defense continues to do what they've been doing, and Stillwater's not a bad place. My parents live about an hour and a half away from Stillwater right now. Been through there. It's cool. It's a good college town. But the most important, the most salient point here is that that's a big money program, and you can go and you can have success. Mike Gundy. I'll Google during the break or something. Mike Gundy's salary, I think, is like third in the Big 12 conference or something, partially because of his tenure, obviously because of his success, but also because Oklahoma State is funded. Oklahoma State is not one of these Big 12 programs. It's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do the revenue sharing thing? They've got a lot of money.
All right, Sports Illustrated published the highest paying coaches in the Big 12 as of January, so this may have changed. But as of January, Gundy was number one. But so
Gundy
I guess
made more than Kyle.
But I guess Deion's contract.
Deion got his raise
so
to 10
Deion's
million a year.
one, and Gundy might be two as of this time. So unless
Rich,
there was other guys who got paid more
that
than him.
accounting for his $1 million pay cut even? So excuse me. This is entering last season, so certainly changed quite a bit in different ways. So he was the top. He was the highest paid coach in the Big 12 entering the 2024 season. Obviously, we know Deion has now become the highest paid coach in the conference, and then he had his pay cut. So he's still, I think, top three is probably a good guess. Okay, so this is Front Office Sports, March 29th, 2025.
All right.
Deion
Update.
Sanders, $10.8 million, is number one, obviously. Tied for fifth overall. Deion's making the same money as Sark, which is
That's bananas.
hilarious at this moment. The next highest Big 12 coach, Kenny Dillingham, tied for 21st. Kenny Dillingham.
He got the raise, yeah. Okay.
Kenny Dillingham went from making like $2.2 million a year to $7.2 million a year because he won a conference championship. And then Lance Leipold at Kansas, $7.1 million, according to
he was two
list.
on this list, right below Gundy going into last season.
We're in the weeds now, but the thing that matters is Oklahoma State is a really good opening for the person, especially because, like, to be the guy who follows the guy at Utah, where Kyle Whittingham, I think they're going to have a good year still. Kyle Whittingham is not going to be fired. When he leaves, he's going to leave and have a relatively uncomplicated legacy where people are just like, yeah, I didn't like how he handled injury reports, but I loved everything about the program. Right? He won. He delivered us Pac-12 championships, the Sugar Bowl undefeated season. Kyle Whittingham is responsible for like 3 of the 4 best moments and maybe 4 of the 5 best moments, depending on how this year goes, in the history of Utah football, and we love him. And he didn't really pick fights with the media. He didn't sit in front of a mic and talk down at people a lot. Mike Gundy, unfortunately, has complicated his reputation and got fired here. So being the guy to follow our guy is not going to be easy. Morgan Scalley's the right person to do it, but it's not going to be easy. Being the guy that comes in after Mike Gundy, he's going to have a bunch of people in stupid orange ties lining up to shake the hand and say, Coach, we're ready to back you. Coach, we're ready to get behind you. Coach, what's your plan? You go win that press conference and your NIL fund floods. And it's not, I mean, Jay Hill's a candidate because everyone's a candidate that's a successful coordinator. But if you're a rising Mountain West Conference, if you're Dan Mullen right now and Oklahoma State calls you, if you get hired there, that's a good job, man. So
Yeah.
we'll keep a close eye on it.
By the way, I have not seen any reports of who the interim coach is going to be as of yet. So that's usually the next question. Okay, well, who's the next coach? Probably one of their coordinators. That's typically what happens in this situation, but I have not seen any news as to who that is yet.
That's a nice little gift right before you head on air.
Yeah, let's go.
Breaking news: Mike Gundy fired as now Kyle Whittingham, the second longest tenured head coach in all of college football. Kirk Ferentz at Iowa at the top, and we talked about this a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that like last week's result against Texas Tech notwithstanding, the reputation and the relationship between university fan base, booster base for Kyle Whittingham is so much better than Ferentz right now, and obviously way better than Mike Gundy right now. So you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. Mike Gundy lived long enough as the head coach at Oklahoma State University to see himself become a villain, and he got fired heading into week 5. Imagine 21 years in the business at the same spot, and your boss calls you you're not even halfway through the season. In your 21st year.
At his alma mater, by the way.
Can't stand you anymore. You got to go. I would pay whatever the subscription fee to watch and listen and learn exactly what Mike Gundy. I need the phone call, right? I need the public records request because this is a state university. I want somebody subpoena exactly what Mike Gundy said. I need to know his response. I need to know how many F-bombs were in there. I need to know exactly what it sounded like when they told Mike Gundy, hey, we're firing you, coach. We're moving on.
Hey, I mean, his I'm a man, I'm 40 rant from however many years ago now. I guess that was 18
years ago, yeah.
He got what he asked for in that.
I think it was 18 years ago yesterday.
Was it really? He got what he asked for in that press conference. He said, don't come after my players. Come after me. I'm a man. Well, the school has now come after you.
Yeah.
Mike Gundy.
September 22nd, 2007.
Well, so I also reading about this. Apparently yesterday he was asked about his employment situation. Does he have any doubts, that kind of thing? And he said, I have no doubt I will be here at the beginning of next season. Yesterday he said that.
Yeah, you know what? Somebody probably like T. Boone Pickens Jr. the third probably heard that, to quote Dan Patrick, and was just like, oh, no, you're not, coach. We're getting rid of you tomorrow. Probably made a phone call to the university, said, I don't like that. I want him gone.
I can't help but think of how Dabo is handling the criticisms of their now, what is it?
3-game losing streak.
1-3 start. 1-3 start, 3-game losing streak. And listen, he deserves way more leeway than Mike Gundy did because of what we've already laid out about him, 2-time national champion. He laid it out himself. 8 ACC championships in the last 10 years. Like, that you deserve some slack when you start to have some bad seasons or one bad season here. But when you basically tell everyone you're an idiot for thinking I'm doing a bad job over and over again, I feel like the slack gets less and less. And I just wonder, I wonder how long, if he's not able to get Clemson back to winning again this season or next or the one after that, I just wonder how long he's going to be at Clemson. But that's definitely going to be, like, he's going to survive this season.
I'm under contract.
We weren't
here.
sure about that with Gundy, though.
Gundy said this yesterday. I'm under contract here for 3.5 years. When I was hired here to take this job, ever since that day, I put my heart and soul into this, and I will continue to do that until at some point, if I say I don't want to do it, or somebody else says we don't want you to do it.
Well, they did that
called
today.
They called him less than 24 hours later and said we don't want you to do it. He is the second longest tenured head coach, 170-90 over his 21 seasons, or I guess now 20 and a half seasons. He had 8 10-win campaigns. 2011, Big 12 title. They were number 3 in the country and got a win in the Fiesta Bowl over Stanford in 2011.
Back when Stanford was awesome. That would have been Andrew Luck's final year at Stanford.
They were in the conference championship game in 2023. Oh, my gosh. 3-9 last year and off to an absolutely abysmal and miserable start.
Lost 11 of their last 12 games, dating back to the first conference game last year.
Mike Gundy out at Oklahoma State. I don't think this directly affects anything that's happening at the University of Utah. This will send ripples through the Big 12 conference. Guys that we're familiar with, guys that you know, names that you know, guys that you've seen, like Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen is probably watching these things, these dominoes fall early in the season, and just like, hell yeah, man. He's like, I'm not going to be in Vegas past December 9th, 2025. And look, I've said it many times. I think UNLV is actually a sleeping giant of a mid-major program. I think UNLV at the very least could be a Boise State type place, and Dan Mullen is doing really good things there. And with the resources that he has gone and drummed up at his disposal, like they can be a big transfer portal kind of, oh, you didn't work out when you went to Georgia, you didn't work out when you went to Oregon, you didn't work out when you went to USC. Come play for me. He's not going to be able to keep those guys if he turns them around, but he's looking at UCLA. He's looking at Oklahoma State, probably not at Virginia Tech, and just going, all right.
Yeah,
he's going to be a Power 5 coach again.
Also, UNLV, because of their market, and if you can get them competitive, they might be a team that looks very attractive in the next round of realignment too. To enter a Power 4 conference.
I'm amazed. Like UNLV did not join the Pac-12, right?
Right.
The reconstructed Pac-12, and it wasn't because they didn't get an invite.
I think they think that
they're better than that conference.
Yeah, we'll actually get in the Power 4, not in the old Power 5.
And their television market is growing. Their presence as a sports town is growing. So
there's obviously a lot of money in Vegas among UNLV
we're
donors.
We're not here
too.
to talk about Vegas necessarily, but wow, surprise breaking news today. The poll questions are still up, and we'll get to talking about them more in detail in the hot lunch. 2 things. Which quarterback starts this week at Virginia for the University of Utah? And I also asked the injury report. There's a very mild pushback against Kyle Whittingham, who revealed at his press conference and said Devin Dampier didn't practice last week. They had to issue a statement saying he wasn't on the injury report because there was never any question that Devin was going to start in this game. They were taking him out of practice to rest him to maximize recovery. There was never any question. So he wasn't questionable. He wasn't probable. He wasn't out. And the program and Kyle Whittingham feel justified and are justified in saying, well, why would we put him on the injury report when he's going to start the game? And that's the letter of the law and the spirit of the law in some ways. But do you as a fan demand or require or even hope for transparency with the Utah injury report now that the Big 12 has mandated this? Do you care as a Utah football fan? Do you want transparency? Or are you okay with a little bit of gamesmanship? I don't want to draw attention to things that attention has not been paid to yet, but we know that the injury report did not account for every person who did not participate in the game or was not eligible or ready to participate in the game. We know that. It also didn't mention a guy who didn't practice 2 days of the week, but there is no requirement, by the way. If you look at the bylaws and you look at the fine print with this injury report mandate, there's nothing that says you have to put them on the injury report if they don't practice. You have to put them on the injury report if you're resting them. You don't have to do that. In the NFL, you do. In the NFL, there's a participation report for practices. and they'll do a designation, player rest day, coach's decision. That's in the parentheses. Not the case right now in the Big 12. So do you as a fan want Kyle Whittingham to tell everyone, not you and not me, to tell everyone, hey, Devin Dampier's a little banged up, guys? I mean, I don't want Texas Tech knowing that going in. I don't even want to know that going in because it affects my optimism for a game. Anyway, we'll take a break. NBA training camps back in session. Gordy Chiesa comes back on the show. We'll talk about what we expect from this upcoming 2025-2026 season for the Utah Jazz, the NBA Western Conference, and beyond. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. After a hiatus that is always too long for any of us, Gordy Chiesa makes a triumphant return to the ESPN 700 airwaves and the Sean O'Connell Show, because training camp's being reported to. The Jazz were hiking around the foothills the other day. Basketball is right around the corner, baby. And that means our resident NBA expert and guru, Gordy Chiesa, will be joining us. Gordy, how are you, sir?
Sean, I'm doing fine. Thanks for the intro. And, Sean, how about our 49ers, 3-0?
How about our 49ers?
Their life, but they're 3-0.
Starting quarterback out, no problem, baby. Backups can win when you got a great roster. Never mind that Bosa's out for the whole season with a tornado. We won't worry about any of that right now. We're just going to celebrate the wins, Gordy.
And on the flip side, my beloved Jets are 0-3, if you get my drift.
Well, at least you have one team that wise people root for. You know what I mean?
Right. And, being a fan, whether you're a Jazz fan or a Niner fan or whatever fan you are of a team, that's quote, your team. And you live and die by it from a fan perspective, and that's what makes it so interesting, quote, being a fan. However, practice is starting in the NBA next Tuesday, as you alluded to, and that's when training camps open up, and it's really very intense to try to make a team.
So, Gordy, one of the beauties of like every NFL season, and certainly in college football, is when you're in the preseason – everybody's 0-0. The optimism reigns supreme. Everyone's just like, yes, okay. And even if you're being unrealistic as a fan, you probably have some part of your primitive brain that's like, we might actually do it this year. It doesn't necessarily feel that way in the NBA. It doesn't feel that way with the Utah Jazz. Like, we know the Utah Jazz are not going to be a good team this year. We know that they're unlikely to be even near the playoff hunt this year. So it takes a little bit of the mystery and the optimism away. What is the thing that Utah Jazz fans should be looking most forward to as that team gets back into camp?
The young guys' development, and that's critical. So the Jazz made a decision to really try to rebuild. They're starting the fourth season of the rebuild. And so the question always is, can Keontae George, can he get better? Can Walker Kessler, can he improve? Can Larry Marketing go back to the form that he had 2 years ago when he played terrific? Cody Williams, can he make that leap as far as him being ready to make an open jump shot consistently? Kyle Filipowski, all these guys. So it's the growth factor of these players compared to the other players in their age group. A lot of times, Sean, don't judge the Jazz players by the elite teams and the all-star type players. It's more, can you outplay a guy in your age group that's really much more realistic? And so far, the Jazz are still trying to strive that, but this should be a year where those guys should be able to really get better dramatically compared to who they play against.
Well, as these teams, we'll talk about it plenty, as these teams all get back to training camp, you're looking at roster changes, you're looking at offseason acquisitions, draft picks, of course, coming in, and we'll see how those guys work out. But then you get bad news sometimes also, where your season expectations can be completely upset by an injury. That is the case, I think, with Fred VanVleet, who looks like he's going to be out for the whole year. You're going to have surgery. What does that do for, coaches, fan base, most importantly, locker room, when you think you're going to have this veteran guy, this reliable guy, and now he's out for the whole year? Changes your entire rotation, changes your lineup.
Very much, yes. So Freddie VanVleet, who is the undrafted player, which is amazing, back in 2016, he fought his way to the NBA and became a one-time All-Star, and he's a huge part of the Rockets. So now Freddie got hurt the other day as far as in a workout, and he ripped his Achilles, and now he's out. So now the Rockets, who added Kevin Durant, and they also added Clint Capella and Dorian Finney-Smith, they think they can be a championship-type team, also led by Alphonse Sengun, who's a young big guy that's tremendous. So with that, Amin Thompson, who's a major young talent who is entering his third year, they're probably going to play him instead of like a two-guard, wing. They'll play him at point guard, and then their backer will be Jeff Shepard, who was a rookie last season who struggled. He'll be try to emerge as far as the backup. Then Aaron Holiday. Now if that doesn't work out, then they might trade one of the guys off the bench not right now, but before December 15th to try to right the ship. So Freddie's out, which affects everyone in the West. Also, just quickly, here's some guys for the listeners to think about. Tyrese Halliburton's out for this season for the Pacers. He got hurt last year. Jason Tatum got hurt during the playoffs last year, ripped Achilles. He might come back April 1st of 2026. Dame Lillard, former Weber State great, Trailblazers now, left Achilles surgery, might be back by April 1st, especially if the Blazers are contending for a playoff bid. Tyler Hero, all-star, got hurt recently, left foot surgery. He comes back at middle of November. Max Strus, Cavaliers, they think they could be champions. They won 64 games last year, got punched in the face to the Pacers 4-1. Strus is out with a left foot Jones fracture. He comes back probably Christmas Day. And then, as always, the last one will be Joel Embiid. If he's healthy, the Sixers are really a contending type team. Unfortunately, last year he's been out with knee, ankles, and back injuries. So that's the interesting part of the NBA, where a guy gets hurt, the other guys have to step up and play really well, especially early in the season.
Swinging things focus back to the Utah Jazz. Obviously, the tank is going to look different this year because you've offloaded a bunch of veteran talent. And last year you were just resting the veteran talent and letting your young guys play. How much does that change the dynamic of a locker room where you still have Lauri Markkanen, who's a veteran now, but he's a young veteran? When it's a bunch of young dudes and they're all going to have to grow together. And you've been very selective about which veteran presence gets to be in the locker room with these young guys, because you're not maximizing wins here, but you do want to maximize development. How much will it change the dynamic? No Jordan Clarkson, et cetera.
It does very much. So the question is now, Lauri Markkanen is a tremendous player. He's on the quiet side, and I have no problem with that. So that's his personality. So the question is, who's going to be the team leader, whether vocally or demonstrative, as far as when he's out there? Who has the most fire? And that's where it's interesting. It should be Isaiah Collier, or it should be also Keontae George. Let's not forget now, Ace Bailey, the fifth pick of the draft, is going to play a whole bunch, if not start. And so Kyle Anderson and George Niang and Yusuf Nurkic are the other type veterans. So one of those guys will emerge as far as also being a locker room presence. My instinct would be George Niang, who's still has game yet. He has a good personality, and that he's a good communicator with the young guys. So that's the concern with the Jazz. Who's going to emerge as the vocal leader? Usually speaking, it should be someone that starts, and most times, Sean, it's a guy on perimeter, because he has the ball a lot of times making plays for himself and for others. Let's find out.
We'll find out. We're going to find out a lot of things as the season approaches, through training camps, et cetera. Gordy, what's your list today?
All right, Sean, list today, getting back to injuries, whether it's the NBA or the NFL, this list is a short list of the NBA grinders who played in all 82 games last season in the 24-25 campaign. Only 11 guys, Sean, did it last season out of roughly 450 players. Here we go. Chris Paul from the Spurs, now the Clippers now. He did it at age 39, played all 82 games.
Wow.
From the Spurs, Harrison Barnes. From the Spurs, Julian Champagnie. From the T-Wolves, Jaden McDaniels. From the T-Wolves, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's now on the Hawks now, also former Jazz man. From the Cavaliers, Jarrett Allen. From the Rockets, Jalen Green. From the Wizards, Carlton Bub Carrington. From the Warriors, Buddy Hield. From the Pistons, Malik Beasley. From the Knicks, Mikal Bridges. And that's 11 players. That's it. And Mikal Bridges also has the streak right now of the most consecutive games in the NBA actively, and that's 556 consecutive games he has played. Quickly, what's the all-time record of the most games played consecutively? That's by A.C. Green. He played 1,106 192 consecutive games
Wow.
in Jazz basketball. The player last year played the most games for the Jazz. Ironically, Sean, was a rookie. Kyle Filipowski played for the Jazz 72 contests last year. John Stockton, as always. John played in 19 NBA seasons. Let's say the obvious for 1 second. On both sides of the ball, he played 17 times out of 19 years, all 82 games.
Unbelievable Iron Man status.
Unbelievable. Chris Paul, again, now he's on the Clippers now. He played last year all 82 games at age 39 at a high level, to his credit.
That's
hard to do.
You got to give credit to Chris Paul. As annoying as he is for Jazz fans, you got to give credit to a guy that is coming in a young man's game that is coming up on 40 and still playing all 82 games. Pretty impressive.
And, Sean, the point about this is that besides playing games, it's how you practice. And the way to win the respect of your teammates is to practice diligently and be receptive to criticism. And then when it's time to lace them up or put the cleats on and the shoulder pads, you're ready to roll. And it sounds so trivial, but it's absolutely critical as far as you practicing well. And then usually you do practice with a lot of enthusiasm and interest. Most times when you have talent, you're going to perform exceptionally well in a game. It sounds so simple, but it gets cloudy in interpretation.
Gordy, glad to have you back. Thanks for joining me on a Tuesday. Appreciate you, sir.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out.
Gordy Chiesa, our resident NBA expert here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Coming up next, a hot lunch brought to you by our friends at BGR and Sugar House Burgers, grilled right. My mouth is watering. Literally, mouth is watering right now because they brought in the Sugar House Burger. They listened to us yesterday. I said, I hope they bring this one tomorrow. That's what we got. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the other question that I proposed. Do you, as a Utah fan, need transparency on the injury report? If you do, tell me why. 877-353-0700. Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk. Let me tell you something. I love food. I'm an easy person to please when it comes to food. But I'm not an easy person to please when it comes to burgers. Because burgers are like way, way up there in terms of last meal type choices for me. All right. I love a good burger. As such, I have a discerning palate when it comes to burgers. Because people can be lazy with their burger. I am finishing up now. If you're watching on YouTube, there's one bite left. The Sugar House Burger from BGR. Burgers Grilled Right is at 1202 East Wilmington in the heart of Sugar House. Kind of right by the farm store, the Redmond Heritage, the organic milk store you can get stuff at, right? Sort of behind Nordstrom Rack, by the Michaels. Just plug 1202 East Wilmington into your maps. Let it take you there. Don't overthink it. The Sugar House Burger, which, thank you, BGR, I requested that they bring this one in today. Brie cheese, grilled apple, applewood smoked bacon, organic spring mix, balsamic Dijon onions, a delightful, savory, and the balsamic and the apple give it a little sweet kick as well. Remarkable. Delicious. Go into BGR, tell them you heard about it on the Sean O'Connell Show. 10% off your order. They've got fries. They've got tater tots. They've got garlic parmesan fries, sweet potato fries, onion rings. You can actually get the order frings. Tell them you want frings, half fries, half onion rings.
Oh, that sounds really good.
It's actually wild that more places don't do that, because normally you walk up to, you order your burger. What side do you want? The only thing I'm going to go in and I'm going to test them out. I'm going to be, give me fringots.
Oh,
fries, rings, tots.
Fringots, like that bank in the Wizarding World.
That's Gringotts.
Oh, my bad.
Sliders, hot dogs, chicken tendies if you got a picky kid like I do. They have a Wagyu Wellington burger. They've got a Southwest Bison Chipotle burger. They've got a lamb burger. They've got these gourmet burgers. And if you've got a more simple palate and you just want to just give me a plain burger, a cheeseburger, a bacon cheeseburger, they really have it all. BGR knocked it out of the park with this Sugar House burger. They brought one in for James, too. You liked it?
Loved it. I've never had apple slices on a burger before. I'm going to say that might be something I'm definitely going to order again. Like,
it's good.
I didn't know that apple slices, the grilled apple slices, could be that good on a hamburger like that. That was amazing.
Head on out, grab the Sugar House burger, and you probably will be like, next time instead of a slice of tomato on my burger, I'm going to do a slice of grilled apple.
That's much more preferable to me than the tomato. So
you're not a tomato guy?
Yeah, not a tomato guy. So on the mission, it's a little bit. One of the unwritten rules is like you don't say no to
you
food.
You got to eat everything,
and you eat everything.
Some people
because you don't want to be rude. Especially they're giving you a free meal. You want to you're always trying to make a good impression, right? So I got to where I can tolerate tomatoes on in things and on sandwiches and burgers like that, but I prefer not to have them.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's talk a little hot lunch here. I asked the question about what quarterback is going to start at West Virginia, and Devin Dampier's running away with it. Everyone hopes it'll be Dev. Everyone hopes Dev's 100% healthy. If he's not, this is a game that you can do a little calculus and say, all right, we might be able to win without him. Don Dixon on Twitter brings up a really important question that is going to be part of this decision-making process potentially. Which backup do you use? Ficklin and burn his red shirt, or do you put in Isaac Wilson, who was named 4 weeks ago? He was named quarterback number 2. Do you put in Isaac Wilson and start his 4-game allotment? I said this yesterday. I will say it again. I don't think you need to worry about red shirt rules anymore in college football, because I think very soon it's going to be 5 years to play 5. I think this is one of the other dominoes that falls as litigation comes against the NCAA and says, well, there's actually no good reason for us to only have 4 years of playing eligibility when we have 5 years of on-campus eligibility. Now, the NCAA's pushback could be, and probably should be, well, it only takes 4 years to get a degree, you dumb athletes. So we're giving you an extra year. Why don't you just be grateful? But that's not the way things go anymore in court. So with that in mind, I would just be like, you know what? I'm not worried about red shirt rules. Play whoever's best. I think that Bird Ficklin is the closest analogy that you have on the roster to Devin Dampier. I think that your offense looks the same with Bird in there. I think we don't know if that's 100% true with Isaac. We haven't seen Isaac, right? I like what we've seen from Bird Ficklin. You still need to win this game. Now, Devin Dampier, every game's a must-win game. But if Devin Dampier is in some kind of health situation where you're in jeopardy of compromising him for the rest of the season, and you have to make this decision, I would say you go Bird. If Devin Dampier is just sore and needs to be, taped up extra tight, but is the best option for you, then you play Devin, and you say, well, being banged up is part of the job, and you're the guy, and he wants to go. We haven't done our audition with Dev. I promise you, Devin wants to play. Devin wants to play, so I think you play him if there's anything close to a maximum output from him. If only the coaches and only Devin know that, though. And I've asked it before. There's not really a good way. 75% Devin, is that better than 100% Bird Ficklin? I don't know.
Yeah, because
he's played he's been in the system for a year and a half now.
Yeah, and you have to factor in, okay, he's maybe that percentage, that much limited physically, but like mentally and knowledge of the system, like you just alluded to, is way more than the guy who's 100% physically ready to go, and that
we're not
and
talking
in some ways that outweighs the guy who's 100% available.
We're talking about a running quarterback, but you're not talking about a running back. With running backs, it's like, for the most part, how physically ready are you?
Yeah.
With a quarterback, there's so much mental stuff to this game, and I want to make it clear. I think Bird Ficklin's a good quarterback. I don't think he's just a good athlete and football player. I think he's a good quarterback.
I think you don't have a bad option against West Virginia.
But I believe Devin Dampier is a significantly better quarterback.
Yeah.
So is 75, 85, 81% Devin, is that better than Bird Ficklin? If it is, you got to go with it, and you got to live with the result. I know that Utah fans are super gun-shy, and this injury report thing has been problematic for people, but that's just, it's something. It's food for thought. At Real OC Sports, that's how you vote on the poll, and, of course, 877-353-0700. We'll get to some of the text responses on this after Red and Blue, which is next with Jerem Jordan. That's how we start hour number 2 on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, the ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Red and blue, we're checking in on the Cougs, the now ranked BYU Cougars, with Jerem Jordan. Conversation brought to you by Murdoch Ford Santaquin. The Murdoch family opening a brand new Ford dealership in Santaquin, Utah. This month, receive up to $12,000 off all 2024 F-150s. Head down to Murdoch Ford Santaquin. Tell them OC sent you. You can also say Jerem Jordan sent you. Jerem, welcome to the show. How are you?
Use the promo code I'm 40, I'm a man.
A great place to start our conversation. Mike Gundy out at Oklahoma State in his 21st season as head coach. What do you think?
Yeah, we could all kind of see the writing on the wall after that Tulsa loss Friday, which is disappointing because you think about it. I mean, we're under 2 years from when Oklahoma State was in the Big 12 title game, and they almost won the Big 12 a couple of years ago. We're duking it out with Baylor 4 years ago and nearly had a big win there. So a lot of winning, a lot of good done there for Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. And now his time's up. So Kyle Whittingham's number 2 and longest tenured college football coach in America. And Mike Gundy, a massive personality, going to miss that. I wonder what he's doing next. $15 million buyout, reportedly. He's going to be just fine.
Now, I think this is a great job. I think that, Oklahoma State has been funded. They've got a very healthy and robust NIL situation, to my knowledge. Things have gone sour between the head coach and the community down there. But if you can be one of the people or the person that comes in and brings Oklahoma State back to the expectations that, Mike Gundy helped them achieve, you can be, not quite the governor of Oklahoma because you still got to deal with the Sooners, but you can be close to that. How appealing is this opening?
I would think it's good. I mean, obviously when Oklahoma State played Oregon, there were some complaints from Mike Gundy about kind of falling behind in the NIL space. And, Texas Tech and BYU and men's basketball and others have shown that, hey, if you can get important backing, then you've got a chance to recruit high-level players that give you a chance to win. It's not everything, but it's certainly a huge piece of what the puzzle is now that wasn't there 5 years ago. And so I don't know what it's like there, but Mike Gundy kind of complaining out loud. It's not good compared to Oregon.
But who is good compared to Oregon?
Who is? Who is? Exactly. When you got Phil Knight back in the club, you need Cody Campbell and others at Texas Tech and so on and so forth. So, I'm not sure. It would be tough because they're always going to be second to Oklahoma, not just in kind of conference affiliation, but Oklahoma's been unbelievable the last 20 years, like top 5 program in terms of winning and New Year's Six and big bowl games and playoff and Heisman Trophy winners and quarterbacks in the NFL and everything. So it's kind of tough to be in that shadow, I would imagine. But they've had so much success. You'd think if they find the right guy in there, and it takes a certain personality. Mike Gundy has been the perfect coach for Oklahoma State for nearly all of those 21 years, probably 19 of the 21, right?
I'm gonna put out a tweet saying that Jay Hill's linked with the job, just to
how dare you?
Just to upset people.
The link with like when the UCLA job opened up with Kalani, it's like, no, he's not a legit candidate. But go ahead and say it there.
Yeah, I mean, look, those are phone calls that UCLA has to make. I don't know if Kalani, or certainly not Kalani. I don't think Jay Hill's on a short list of calls that Oklahoma State has to make, but you could do a lot worse, as we're aware. Jay's a good coach, both as a coordinator and as a head coach. So I don't know that that's the right fit, but I do think it is a good job for whoever takes it.
Yeah, and you're in the mix. You've had a lot of success. You've shown that, but yeah, where's the NIL? Where is sort of the direction here? Honestly, last week I was like, is this the right time for them to make this move? They get kind of the feelers out there before anybody else. We're seeing this in the NFL a ton where, hey, if it's not the right guy and you break up immediately, if you will, and you put the feelers out there and you see who's out there and what's out there, and you kind of get one of the first picks as opposed to waiting later. Like it's the timing matters for this too. And obviously you're sort of throwing this season in the dumpster a little bit, but they're obviously trying to push forward in a new direction. Things have gone south to the point where you let Mike Gundy go today.
He was 1-2 to start the season. Dabo is 1-3 at Clemson to start the season, and their interactions, Gundy's and Dabo's interactions with the public have been very, very similar over the last couple of years. Do you think that Dabo's next?
I mean, if they lose 3 or 4 more games, like maybe, but he has more equity there
For
because they've
sure.
won a couple of natties. They've won 8 of 10 ACC titles. He actually stood up to the SEC when almost no one else did. Like Clemson was this bastion of, well, other teams can win it too kind of situation. And what they built randomly in Clemson, South Carolina is pretty special. And so I think that he's got more cachet, more equity built up. So I don't see that happening soon. But I mean, when you have a high standard and you feel like the direction of the program is lost and you know you can do better, then that's when people make swift decisions, it feels like.
Well, we didn't bring you on to talk about Clemson or to talk about Oklahoma State.
We're talking about other teams? Oh, okay.
We brought you on to talk about the Utah State. No, just kidding.
Nice.
BYU. Hey, they're doing a great job up there, actually.
They are.
I love the fact that they're going to Vanderbilt for another game, but we digress. BYU, as most of us expected, takes care of business on the road against an East Carolina team that put up some fight and I guess required BYU's defense to get the scoring going with their own pick six situation. But did anything about that game surprise you as a BYU insider?
Yeah, the BYU gave up a touchdown. We expect no touchdowns.
Oh my gosh!
Incredible. They were playing some backups, and it's the end of the game, and it's whatever. BYU's tied for first in the country with 16 points allowed on the season with Ohio State. I mean, let's not get too picky. Nothing surprised me. Last week, early in the week, I said, hey, BYU by 17 plus, which is like this running gag on the show where I think BYU's going to win by a ton, and they either actually do it or they lose. There's kind of no in between. And so I guess I nailed that one. But it was a good performance for BYU on the road. Like nationally, that's not a game that pops, but it was an important game for BYU because it was a tough situation. It was an ECU team that played a one-score game at NC State. It was an ECU team that had 8 takeaways in 3 games, tied for first in the country. They were throwing for about 350 a game. This was a big kind of Super Bowl type game. When they have a flyover, you know it's a big game, right, Sean? They had a flyover with some BYU grads, some ECU grads. That was cool. 50,000 packed the house. It was the first start for true freshman Bear Bachmeier. Preseason, we're not saying, hey, this is a huge game or big game, but honestly, the situation was significant. It was important, and BYU delivered. And the offense passed the ball at an effective rate. Yards per attempt, if you go 8+, that's a good number. Bear Bachmeier went 9.8. Chase Roberts nearly had 100. LJ Martin went for 100 yards for the 3rd straight game to start a season, just the 2nd time in BYU history. BYU continues to run off 40-plus yard runs. They have 6 this season. That's tied for first in the country. LJ has 4 himself. That's tied for first in the country. BYU has an explosive run game. They were effective in all facets of the game. The pick 6 by Evan Johnson was spectacular. And BYU did what they needed to do. They got into the rankings, and now they welcome an increasingly bigger challenge in Colorado.
So I want to focus in on Bear Bachmeier for a second because I think I'm guilty of this maybe, but there's a sense with some conversation around BYU that like, hey, just the quarterback right now is not – you don't need that guy to be a star because of all the things you just mentioned. Defense is hyper legit. They have a really fleshed out run game. They have talent in the wide receiving core that obviously you want to be able to use, but you don't need a quarterback right now. You don't need a freshman especially to be taking excessive risks or trying to win games solely with his arm. You might get to a point, though, where Bear Bachmeier has to do more with his arm. What we saw against East Carolina, is it enough for you to trust that if and when that does happen, he's capable of it? He looked really good passing the football.
I think he's going to grow up quick. And like we've talked about the last couple of weeks, this kind of ramp up for him is perfect because it's Portland State. That's about as easy as it's going to get, right? Stanford didn't put up much of a fight. And then ECU is a defense that has been taking the ball away quite a bit. Now Colorado, and then West Virginia, Arizona, and then it's Utah, then it's Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU. Now we'll really see what BYU's made up in games 7, 8, 9, 10. But I think he took a step forward because the dude passed for 246 yards, completed 72%. He was explosive, like I mentioned, at 9.8 yards per attempt, had a rushing touchdown, had a passing touchdown. He has yet to give it away. there have certainly been moments where it almost was given away, and most of his throws have been not turnover worthy, which is good. But he is getting better. He's getting more aggressive. He's seeing intermediate routes. He was 11 of 14 in 5 to 14-yard passes. He's seeing down the field. He's finding Chase Roberts, Carson Ryan. Yes, there are moments that he can improve. First play of the game, BYU had a touchdown if he puts it on the money, but he throws it just slightly out of bounds to Parker Kingston. Otherwise, BYU scores right away. They had the right play call, just didn't execute it. It's all good. He rushes for a 16-yard touchdown. That's part of his game. I like the development. It's slow. It's deliberate. It's increasingly more challenged week to week. And BYU will give it away at some point. They will trail. They have yet to trail 3 games. But this defense and the run game and the special teams, it just is the best Minky Couture blanket a quarterback could ever ask for.
Oh, that is the most BYU reference you could come up with, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Soft, Sean.
Oh, they are so soft. Man, you know what's crazy about those blankets? And they're not advertising right now, so I don't – but, like, it's not the kind of thing – when you buy a giant blanket like that that's so comfy, you think, all right, I have one now. And maybe that's – nope. You get people those blankets, they still want more of those blankets. All right? We got like 17 of them in my house, I think. It's ridiculous. Nice. Anyway.
I have one, and it's the best. It's like way too big, but, I just needed to cover my feet, It's fine.
Man. Jeremy Jordan, my guest here, Red and Blue, brought to you by our friends down at Murdoch Ford, Santa Quinn. Brand new dealership, $12,000 off the 2024 F-150s. Let's talk about LJ Martin here for a second. I told you before the season started that I think that this running back room, specifically the room, is going to be a big problem for people in the Big 12. And I probably wasn't giving LJ enough credit. I thought that they had great depth at running back and that Sione Moa is a real threat. LJ is, you know the stat better than I do. He's got 3 straight 100-yard games. There's only been like 3 Cougs or 4 Cougs in history that have done that, and they've had some really good running backs, including a Doak Walker winner down there. Where do we need to start putting LJ Martin in terms of not only the star players on this team, but in the conference, and dare I say even in BYU's history?
We'll get to the history part as we get increasingly into conference play. But, yeah, just one other person who's started a season with 3 100-yard games, Marcus Whalen in 2002. He's not one of the names that we say all time. He didn't play for
one of the greats.
Whatever, but yeah. One of the greats, Marcus Whalen. What? For BYU, he is exactly what we were hoping he would be. A little thinner, a little faster. I've called him like the quintessential. I'm a Mariners guy, so Edgar Martinez doubles for days, right? Is he going to hit a ton of home runs? No. But his 4 rushes of 40-plus show us that he's explosive. He had 0 of those last year. He has 4 of those this year, tied for first in the country. Remember, BYU's already had a bye week, so 1 less game played than most. He's been spectacular. And Sione Moa, when he gets the ball, he makes plays. He made a nice catch in traffic in kind of the middle on a high ball. He gets first downs. He blocks really well. He returned a kick as kind of that second option to Cody Hagan when he got the ball. So BYU's running backs are awesome. And they would have loved to have Hinckley Ropati. Still haven't heard from the NCAA on that, which is great. NIL Go or the NCAA, they just don't get back to you. They're just ghosting everybody, I guess.
Cool.
But I like the with Bear Bachmeier, that kind of 3-headed monster in the run game's been good. And it should go without saying that BYU's O-line's been good too. They've been a top 10 run blocking team. They're top 15 pass blocking according to PFF. Gentry, Jada. There were some penalties there that were a little weird, but ECU actually had like 6 false starts at home, which is like the weirdest thing I've ever seen for a home team to have that many. But it's been a good performance in the run game. Aaron Roderick said this is our identity. And, whether BYU fans like to admit it or not, BYU looks like Utah right now. Elite defense, very good special teams, trying to run the ball like the traditional Utah that won a lot of games. But the pass game needs to expand because BYU fans love to see the ball in the air. That's just how it goes down here. When
you have Chase Roberts, who you got to be able to use Chase Roberts. He, like you said, he almost hit 100 yards in this game, and that's a weapon that you have to find a way to get ball in his hands.
1,000,000%. And he was targeted 8 times. That was the most of anybody. He caught 5 balls. 1 he dropped, but he had 55 yak. I mean, good number. Chase is a undrafted free agent type of NFL receiver at this point. I'm hoping he kind of sneaks into the later rounds with a good performance. But let's be honest, as BYU brings its true freshman along, like, it's just not going to be the same in the passing game, at least the first half of the season. What I'm hoping in the back half of the season is, and the schedule gets tougher like we talked about, is that Chase will be more of a weapon, and we can kind of see his deep vertical threat skills at play that will help BYU win some games.
Utah fans did not like when we were talking about, the losses that Utah had in the transfer portal. I still think Utah's net gain in the transfer portal was more important than the net loss, even though they did lose important guys. Keanu Tanavasa has played decently well for BYU so far. I was like, man, Carson Ryan's a big loss. And everyone's like, he's not a big loss. What are you talking about? He's not an impact player. I feel like he has been an impact player for BYU, and he's going to continue to grow into even more of an impact player for BYU. But you tell me, are we seeing like this is what Carson Ryan is going to be, or as he and Bear Bachmeier develop more chemistry and this season progresses, we get even more Carson Ryan?
I mean, hard to ask for more than like 4 for 63 and a touchdown against ECU. I mean, Carson Ryan was awesome, and that guy got lit up a couple times. They threw out a guy for targeting on one play. Carson, was going for a ball and kind of bumped into the field goal post. Even like he was getting hit, stays in there, blocks really well. You don't know whether he's going to delay and go out for a pass or not. On his touchdown, it was a really nice play design where Carson delayed, went out, caught touchdown. He made the one-hander pinned against his helmet against Portland State. I think this is the kind of game, this last one, that we're going to see from Carson. I don't know that he's like a 8-catch-a-game for 80 like that. Most teams don't use the tight end in that way, but BYU also just runs fewer plays, Sean, than most. They huddle a lot. They want to be a little more deliberate, a little more window dressing, and BYU's had the lead in a lot of these games. They're not looking for stop points. They just want to kind of win and get out of there.
There's some history between BYU and the University of Colorado. How do you handicap this game?
BYU by 6.5 right now is what Vegas is saying. But, let's think about what version of BYU in Colorado we have now versus what was in the Alamo Bowl. I would argue that the BYU defense is equal to or better than they were in the bowl game. I would argue the BYU offense is probably, a notch or two behind, kind of going towards what it finished as last year. Colorado's offense is not what it was last year, and I would argue the defense is a little bit better for Colorado as they beefed up the lines. Why wouldn't BYU go into Colorado and win convincingly after what we saw in the Alamo Bowl? You don't have the Heisman Trophy winner. You don't have an NFL quarterback sitting there in Caden Salter, and they've had issues trying to figure out who that guy is, although he looked good against Wyoming last week. I think BYU controls the ball with the run game. I think defensively BYU forces several takeaways, and I think BYU gets a double-digit win in Boulder. With that said, I do respect, hey, it's Big 12 play. There's more talent there. It's Deion Sanders. I just really liked what we saw in the Alamo Bowl, and BYU was really, really irked by the lack of narrative about the 10-2 regular season, and they took it out on the Buffaloes in the bowl game. Let's see if BYU kind of channels whatever new motivation they have for this week.
So BYU's in the rankings, TCU's in the rankings, Texas Tech deservedly jumps higher up in the rankings, Iowa State still there. Is it now those 4 teams that we should be talking about in the power structure of the Big 12 conference?
Yeah, Tech seems like the obvious number one. I have Iowa State, BYU, Arizona State, TCU is kind of that next group. And then I have Utah, Baylor, Kansas, next group. I'm not sure what to do with Houston, Arizona. I need to see good competition. I mean, you could argue that with BYU, but the difference with BYU is the defense has been elite, where you go, oh, they've got something special. In my not the worst category, I have UCF, Colorado, and Cincinnati. And then the bottom 3 are Kansas State, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State now searching for a new head coach. BYU ranked and starting Big 12 play against Colorado. Utah on the road against West Virginia. Going to be an interesting week. Jerem Jordan will be on top of it with BYU Sports Nation. Always love talking some Cougs with you, Jerem. Thanks for joining us again.
Sean, thanks, man.
That conversation, Red and Blue, on the Sean O'Connell Show, brought to you by our friends at the brand new Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. So if you're driving down there in southern Utah County, head to Santa Quin. Murdoch family has opened a brand new Ford dealership, and this month up to $12,000 off on the 2024 F-150s. Woo! All right, the Daily Dump is coming next. Lots to get to, actually. There's a lot going on that, a little potpourri of stories that we don't necessarily have time to flesh out completely, but you're going to want to hear the Daily Dump, brought to you by Valley Plumbing, next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92 on FM. All right, time for the Daily Dump brought to you by Valley Plumbing. Lots going on in the world of sports. Not all of it good, some of it cool, some of it strange. How about this? Let's start with something really exciting, something really fun. Jackson Dart reportedly getting the start for the New York Giants.
To start.
The former Corner Canyon Charger. Well, hold on. He's from Kaysville, right? So he was a Davis Dart first, maybe?
Didn't you? I remember you saying he started at Roy.
You're right. Sorry, excuse
me.
Absolutely, you're correct. The Roy Royal, Corner Canyon Charger, USC Trojan, Ole Miss Reb, now New York Giant.
Football Giant.
Going to get the start for the New York Football Giants over Russell Wilson. And this is where things get massively interesting, right? Because when it's not going well and when your old dog, veteran, slow horse quarterback is having his struggles, who becomes everyone's favorite player? Who becomes the young, exciting, the fun, the sexy? Give me that. It's the backup quarterback, especially a backup quarterback that you moved up to draft in the first round. Jackson Dart is highly thought of in the building. He's highly thought of in the organization for his preparation, for his upside, for his skill. And now we all get to watch as the rubber meets the road and the hopes, the dreams, hey, why don't we just put this kid in and see what happens for not only a fan base, but for a coaching staff that is a little embattled right now. Jackson Dart goes from being a guy behind a veteran, behind a Super Bowl champion veteran who we all know is past his best days, but still has that kind of respect and credibility in the history of his career. Jackson Dart now goes from like the most non-threatening position in all of sports as a young guy learning from someone with those credentials to the guy who replaces that individual, which is the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Jackson Dart is now the answer. Jackson Dart is now you're the one here to fix these problems. You're going to make it better for us.
The expectations that comes with expectations. That comes with now people
insane expectations.
Yeah, now people are upset when you throw it at the goalpost on 4th and goal. Oh wait. No other quarterback other than Russell Wilson will do that.
The thing with Jackson Dart though, and it's characterized his career all the way back to high school and probably before that. The New York media market, we know all the stories about that. You have to be built a certain way, and you can't just be a cocky guy, right? Cocky guys are honestly, in many cases, they're like hiding their insecurities by being cocky. He has this self-possessed swagger and confidence that can on some moments come across as cocky, but it is built on him like actually believing that he is that dude.
I feel like it's similar to Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Burrow had that, it's somewhat quiet, just always confident, clearly in his final year at LSU, and he carried that into the NFL nicely. I'm not sure Jackson Dart is quite the same as Joe Burrow in that regard, but he's got that same kind of like, I wouldn't say it comes off as
Breaking
cocky
news,
very much,
James
but
Peterson
confident.
Says Jackson Dart is Joe Burrow.
No, yeah.
Joe Burrow's injured. Now the next Joe Burrow comes in.
Jackson Dart. Yeah, at the confidence level anyway. I'm not sure it's quite the same, but it reminds you of the way Joe Burrow carries himself.
So if anyone is built to handle the scrutiny of the
it's gotta be
New
someone
York
like
media
that.
circuit,
Yeah. It's
it's got to be someone who obviously attaches a certain level of their confidence and self-worth to how they perform in football, but it's I think better for a guy like that who's always been the dude. Jackson Dart has always been the guy. He always has, right? You go back when he was heading into high school, everybody wanted him to be their starting quarterback in high school. Sorry, Coach Kerr. He effectively got recruited to go to a scholarship factory type program. And then, of course,
he's saying
he ended up at USC, which is when you're west of the Mississippi, that is like the destination for high school quarterbacks who are the man, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't stay. He ended up at Ole Miss and
just east of the Mississippi. Interesting.
Gaudy numbers, dumb numbers.
He was awesome.
He was an awesome player, and like
coached by a really good offensive mind in Lane Kiffin.
Oh, and
too.
by the way, there is something to be said. You're not the number 1 overall pick, but you're a quarterback that, in that process, a team. Reports say multiple teams were interested, but a team decided, you know what, we're moving back up. We're going back into this first round, and we're getting this guy because he's not going to be available later. He has been sought after and wanted as a player for his entire life, and now he's got to like make good on all that. I think he's mentally equipped. He just strikes me as that kind of an individual. I've never had personal interactions with him, but every interview, every report, he's just that dude, and he carries himself and he plays with that level of swagger, and you have to have it in New York. You just do. That machine will chew you up and spit you out. It has chewed up and spit out Russell Wilson, who has a Super Bowl ring and is married to a pop star who looks like a supermodel. Like, it doesn't care. It is a drag, and the New York media market is a ravenous beast that will eat you up and what you out right down the daily dumper if you don't perform. So it's going to be fascinating to watch how it goes for Jackson Dart. And he'll be given more of a leash as well as a rookie than Russell Wilson. So I think it's actually a better situation for him.
It's eerily similar to didn't get picked number 1 overall. Jackson Dart didn't, but first round quarterback, a Super Bowl champion veteran who people thought, and in the case of the thing I'm going to make an analogy to, people were wrong about it, but a Super Bowl champion quarterback who people thought was on his way out and looking to be a backup the rest of his career, if not playing at all. Eli Manning was behind Kurt Warner his rookie year, and they got off. The only difference is the Giants got off to a really terrific start under Kurt Warner that year, and then the wheels fell off. And then they said, okay, Eli, save us this season. He ends up having probably a Hall of Fame career after that. Not saying that's what's going to happen with Jackson Dart, but it seems like a similar situation.
James Peterson says Jackson Dart
Joe
is
Burrow
either
and Eli
Joe
Manning.
Burrow or Eli Manning or a combination of the two.
Hey, it's setting up. He's got a similar run up to the start of his career than Eli Manning had, even though not number 1 overall.
Here's a good example. Here's a good example of what the New York media market does to young players. So you saw this story from last week. We never got to it, but Eli Manning was like, hey, Jackson Dart, if you ever need anything, I'm here for you. And Jackson Dart was like, okay, cool, thank you. And apparently the first favor he asked of Eli Manning was, I want to get a
Do you remember
reservation.
the name? Do you remember the name of the steakhouse? I can't remember.
But Richards or something dumb.
That's what it was. And it was Dan Patrick was really good with this in the morning that day. He's obviously a lot more familiar with New York City than we are out here. He said that restaurant probably has 8 tables, so it's near impossible to get into.
Sorry, Fort Charles is the
Fort
name.
Charles. That's
okay,
what it was.
Also, fancy steakhouses. Stop being hard to understand grammatically.
Yeah.
Like Ruth's Chris. That's hard to understand grammatically. Fort Charles. What is it? For Charles, or is it 4 people named Charles?
Charles the Fourth. You just did it backwards. Anyway.
So apparently that was the first favor that Jackson Dart asked Eli for, and everyone was like, "That's not what he meant, kid. You're an idiot. He wants to watch film with you. You've ruined it." And it's just like, I was just it's okay.
By the way, Eli, that was not Eli's reaction. He laughed it off and went, "Yeah, I was kind of more talking about like dealing with being the center of attention in New York, being an NFL quarterback, but sure, yeah, let me see if I can get you into this restaurant."
I mean, if anything, that to me, it reinforces my idea that Jackson Dart, maybe there's some tone deafness to it, but Jackson Dart is like,
I got this quarterback thing.
He's like, me and Eli are on the same level. Like, I can ask him if he can help me with a dinner reservation because, like, we're cool like that.
He told me I could. So
Anyway,
there you go. No, that was a hilarious story. Yeah, but it's kind of a similar run up to the start of his career now than what Eli had. Obviously, it's a bit apples and oranges because again, he's the 21st pick. Eli was number 1 overall pick, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. Both Ole Miss quarterbacks too, by the way.
correct. All right. The SEC announced their scheduling pods for the next 4 years. You saw this yesterday. Alabama and LSU not considered an historic protected rivalry by the new scheduling agreement. So
Seems like a miss there.
And I get it. When the conference is so big, you have to kind of
Yeah.
But it's like LSU's got to play Arkansas every year. It's like, what? No, what are you talking about?
Yeah, not the thing about it with LSU Alabama, even though that is definitely a long-standing historic SEC rivalry, SEC West rivalry in particular, it's like not everyone can have their rivalry game protected with Alabama. Like Alabama's obviously a team that everyone wants to try to take their shot at every year. Alabama Auburn, if that's all you can protect the Iron Bowl, then that's what you should protect.
The pod scheduling system divides teams into groups, and then you get these 3 permanent annual opponents and 6 rotating opponents. So somebody's got to go. Somebody's annual opponent is going to be left off, and it's, Florida and Tennessee not protected either, which is interesting because that's a good SEC
Good
rivalry,
classic rivalry.
But again, how do you keep everyone happy?
So do we? What are the main rivalries they're protecting then? Is it Georgia, Florida?
Georgia, Florida, the aforementioned Iron Bowl, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl, right?
Good move by them to protect that one.
And Texas, Oklahoma, obviously now part of the SEC.
Still strange to think about that game. It's not strange. I don't know if you're the same as me, OC. It hasn't been strange to see Texas and Oklahoma play SEC opponents, but it is strange when that game rolls around every year and it's like, SEC rivalry. Yeah, nope, don't think of it that way still.
Never will. It'll be very hard to get used to that.
Yeah.
But so that was an interesting thing that came out yesterday. Also, as long as we're talking about scheduling, the ACC becomes the last Power 4 conference.
Yeah, this one's really interesting.
To announce that they're going to a 9-game conference schedule. Everyone else, the SEC finally was like, all right, we'll do it.
I didn't even realize that the ACC wasn't at 9 games. I thought it was just the SEC.
The ACC is now going to do a 9-game conference schedule, and just like the SEC, they are going to say, all right, you played 9 conference games, and your non-conference has to include a non-conference Power 4 team.
So at least 10 per year. The really interesting part about it is because the ACC has an odd number of teams. I don't know if you noticed this part, OC. They have 17 teams right now. It doesn't work out perfectly that every school has 9 conference games. So there's one school per year that's going to have 8 conference games and has to have two non-conference Power 4. So they still have 10 Power 4 games, but one school each year is going to have one less conference game.
Now, if you're an athletic director, you manipulate that to your favor, and you say, all right, since we still have to have 10 games, and 2 of them are going to be non-conference.
Hey, Rutgers, you want to play?
Rutgers, what's up, man? You guys have been looking really good. And I guess we can't tease Vanderbilt anymore that way because Vanderbilt's good now, and Diego Pavia is going to be playing for the next 12 years because he's suing the NCAA.
Yeah, be careful. Be careful. The doors are coming for you. Rutgers, Northwestern, although they have some good years every once in a while.
Let's be honest, James. We can do it. It's going to be like whoever the bottom dweller in the Big 12 is going to be getting a lot of calls.
I'm trying to think. Oklahoma State,
Cincinnati,
feels that way
what's
right
up,
now.
guys? I don't anticipate Kansas State, if they truly are down, stays down. I don't think Oklahoma State should stay down. I think they're, like I've told you many times on the show today, that I think that's a good job and is a job that somebody should like and somebody should take.
Wake Forest.
Wake is an ACC team.
Yeah, I'm saying that's another Power 4 team. Well, duh. This is ACC.
This is the ACC.
Duh. They can't play them twice.
Hey, Wake. Let's do the Oregon State and Washington. That's what they'll do. They'll be like, hey, that's a Pac-12 team. They're Power 4.
Right, Power 4?
We're going with Colorado State is our other. They're like, no, guys.
No, Power 4, not 5. Come on. Yeah, no, the bottom dweller, whoever's seen as the bottom dweller in the Big 12 is going to get a lot of calls from ACC schools. Absolutely.
Also exciting, I know that you're big into this, Major League Baseball. This will be our final daily dump brought to you by Valley Plumbing story. Major League Baseball has approved robotic umpires for challenges in 2026.
Yeah, so they've been doing this all year in the minors, and they did it in spring training this year.
Yep.
And now I think they did in the All-Star game this year too. So we've those that pay attention to those kind of things have seen it. It's now officially starting next season going to be at the Major League level. I think it's a good evolution by Major League Baseball. I do like that it's still going to be the human umpires making the initial call, and then you have a limited number of times where you can say, yeah, that wasn't the right call.
The last Bees game I went to, this was a thing.
Yeah, it's a good point. They've been doing it with the Bees for the last few years.
They've been doing it at least the last 2 seasons, and I was like, okay. There was not a two times per game limit because it was, not that it matters, but it was this woman who's an umpire who was just wrong every time. The challenge was, and there was like 7 of them. The batters were just like, challenge. And it's like, okay. And I was like, this is a controversial thing because it can slow down a game. It was remarkably quick, even in the minors. I imagine in the majors, they'll do everything they can to facilitate even more speed there. But it was quick. And it got to a point of like uncomfortable reaction because every time the challenge came up, the robotic umpire showed, oh, yeah, that was actually kind of not even super close. And the umpire has no choice because in the rule set, it's just like, yep, okay, I was wrong. And it happened like 7 or 8 times in the game. And I didn't even stay the whole game.
Feel bad for the umpire in that spot.
Yeah, it was like probably like 5 innings. And you got to this point where it's just like, oh, no, not again.
Please don't.
Challenge. And you're just like, okay, is this? Oh, yeah. That one was obvious.
And did they have it on the video board?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I was told and I didn't notice it at the Bees games I went. I didn't notice it a bunch of the Bees games I went to last year. I haven't been to one. Didn't make it to one this year yet. But I was told it's a lot like the tennis challenge, which I've always loved. Always super quick and really accurate. And they put their hand up. The player puts their hand up. They show it on the video board. In, out. Okay, now we're back to play. I always thought that could be very applicable to this sort of thing in Major League Baseball. I'm glad to see that's going to happen starting next season at the Major League level. And yeah, I'm optimistic that it's not going to slow the game down very much.
That's your daily dump brought to you by our friends at Valley Plumbing. Anything that has a pipe, has some water, has a gas line involved, Valley Plumbing can take care of it for you. Give them a phone call. Tell them that OC sent you as part of the daily dump. All right, we've had some interesting text messages come in on the text line I want to get to. I asked 2 questions today at the top of the show. Which quarterback is going to start for the University of Utah at West Virginia? And with a minor stir being created around the injury reporting by the University of Utah, do you as a fan demand that the injury report is 100% transparent and accurate? Kyle Whittingham and the university put out a statement clarifying his comments from the Kyle Whittingham press conference where he said Devin Dampier did not practice during the week a couple of times. He was affected in the game by an injury, but there was never a question that he was going to play, so we didn't put him on the injury report because he wasn't questionable. He wasn't probable. He was definitely going to play. So it's a little gamesmanship. What do you want as a fan? 877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports. We'll get into some of that. And then Jeff Schwartz joins us in 10 minutes on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, the poll questions are up at Real OC Sports. Who starts the West Virginia game for Utah. Devin Dampier running away with it. That's the hope. Bird Ficklin coming in second. 6.3% of the respondents say Isaac Wilson should start. Remember, there is a red shirt calculation potentially. Bird has already played in 4 games. Isaac has not. You could get to week 9 without burning either red shirt for the backups if you think you need to get there. Obviously, you need to win this game. Texas Tech felt like a must-win game for different reasons. This is a must-win game because West Virginia is not particularly good, although schematically they've got some interesting things going on. Rich Rod is a good coach. He, at one point, took West Virginia, this same school, he took West Virginia to a top 5 ranking. He is the best coach in the recent West Virginia history, if not all of West Virginia history. So
that Pat White led team, those Pat White led teams were fun. Geno Smith had like a near Heisman year, which got him to be a first round pick by the Jets, which I'm so glad he's turned it around from that point because he looked like one of the biggest busts ever, and now is a really good quarterback.
This is one of the road trips I want to make in the Big 12. Not going to have a chance. I'm going to be in France. Not going to have a chance to do it this year. But Morgantown is one of the, like, it's a college town. Yeah. And you want to go in the fall. I don't know if you've seen the photos of what Morgantown looks like in autumn when the leaves are changing, but it's like incredibly picturesque. And West Virginia with its hollers and its hills and all that stuff. It's just you can go in the Pac-12. Those were all great road trips, but like going to Tucson, Arizona, you might as well be in St. George. You know, culturally, there's not enough difference. Appalachia, West Virginia, is wildly different than Utah, even though it's mountainous.
Basically anywhere in the western United States, way different from any of that.
Yeah, it's one of those ones I want to go to, but not going to make it this time. In any case, you need to win this game for different reasons than you needed to win the Texas Tech game. That it's just you got to get right. You got to get back on your horse, and you got to get to this bye week with a win under your belt and some optimism pointing you towards a really rough next 3 weeks after the bye week. So Devin Dampier, ideally, if he's healthy enough, will go. We didn't hear a ton until after the game about the fact that Devin Dampier was limited in practice that last week, and then Kyle Whittingham, he volunteered the information that, hey, he didn't play, and it did affect him. He didn't practice, and his injury did affect him in the game. And so, you know, the media types especially were getting really upset about the fact that Devin Dampier didn't appear on the injury report. So Utah football, Kyle Whittingham released a statement that clarified there was never any question whether or not Devin was going to start. He was held out of practice as a rest thing, and that does not violate any edict, any mandate, any rule, because Devin did start. So why put him on the injury report? He wasn't doubtful. They didn't doubt that he was going to start. It was John Wilner, I think you said, that was like, this violates the
spirit of the policy.
It violates the spirit of the policy. Well, Kyle Whittingham is not really much a spirit of the rule kind of guy. He's going to go by the letter of things, especially if he thinks it's going to give him a disadvantage to report that his quarterback is banged up. And by the way, it does. If you say my starting quarterback has missed practice this week, and then the team, your opponent's like, well, we better prepare for the backup, and you have to use that backup, now your opponent is more prepared for the backup. In any case, as a fan, given the injury history, given the last 2 years, given the Cam Rising saga, what do you want or what do you need from Utah football in this regard? 55% of people saying, I want 100% transparency. 45% saying gamesmanship is okay. More of a split than I thought.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the majority are feeling like I need 100% transparency because of what you just laid out there, what just happened the last couple of years regarding Cam Rising and people feeling like they were deliberately deceived on that, and there's absolutely an argument that they were, right? And so I understand fans feeling that way. shows gamesmanship is okay, but I don't think that I am one that feels like Devin Dampier should have been on the injury report if he didn't practice. But you put him as probable. Like, that's what those designations are. And if you want to do some gamesmanship in that way, like, I think do it the way that Bill Belichick did with Tom Brady over the years. Tom Brady was never going to miss a game, but he was always questionable on the injury report. You want to do that kind of gamesmanship. I'm okay with that. I don't really like the, hey, there's no doubt he's going to play, so we don't have to even put a probable designation on him. I feel like, come on, like,
8578
commit to doing the injury report.
I find the brouhaha about injury reports ridiculous. If a team does not want to disclose an injured player, it should not have to. This has nothing to do with competition. The whole injury report requirement is to provide information for bettors. It's all tied to gambling, which is the case. I mean, that's why these injury reports rules around injury reports are enforced. It's because there's money tied to it. And again, it's one of the reasons, like, Kyle Whittingham is not a sports bettor. Kyle Whittingham has never wagered on a sport in his life. So Kyle Whittingham is probably like, I don't give a bleep if the bettors have their information. You know what I mean? So there's two sides to all of this. Of course, we want transparency. This from 1624. Just because Whit can find a loophole doesn't make it right. 1743, I want a full comprehensive injury report. Maybe that's someone who wagers. Maybe not. I don't know. 3719, I have zero concern over lack of transparency over injuries. We're the fans and should have trust in the process that the coaches are paid to do what they do to win. Only boosters with deep pockets should get to know that info if they care to. 9653 says, I'm sick of the so-called games. I'm sick of the coaching style. I'm sick of all of it. Can we just get back to playing Utah football? Terrible offense and above-average defense. Okay, that's someone. I tried to talk you back off the ledge yesterday, 9653, but we're all right. We're all right. We'll take a break here. We'll start hour number 3 with our good friend Jeff Schwartz. Jeff watches offensive line play in particular with a very discerning eye. Can he, a member of the Joe Moore Award search committee, can he tell us what happened specifically with Utah's offensive line against Texas Tech and why they underperformed? Utah's number one sports talk, the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome to hour number 3 on the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in my good friend, former co-host Jeff Schwartz, longtime NFL veteran, former Oregon Duck, which we forgive him for. Jeff, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
It's been a difficult weekend for Utah fans, and we're trying to reset and focus on West Virginia, but not without learning the lessons necessary from a Texas Tech really ugly game against Texas Tech. And I've been looking forward to asking you this question. How does a top 5, top 10 offensive line in the country lose the line of scrimmage?
Well, I actually don't think it was as bad as you think it is, or was, I should say. And I'm going to give a shout-out quickly. Brandon Thorne, who you guys should follow at Brandon Thorne NFL, does a lot of his life is basically offensive line play. He did an episode with Aaron Taylor, who runs the Joe Moore Award, and they're going to have it out this week on this game, on the matchup between Utah's tackles and Texas Tech's defensive ends. So it's not up yet. I just actually texted him to ask when it'll be up. So just a heads up, I'll tweet out. Maybe I'll send you the link, Sean. You can show your followers. So just go to sort of a walkthrough of what we saw in that game. A couple of things. Texas Tech has spent money on their defensive line, right? It's paid off. They have really good defensive ends. And I think in the run game, the Utah tackles just need to get stronger, if that's the best way to put it, right? And that was always a question about Lomu, right? It's like, does he have the play strength to, at that position for the NFL, which I think he will eventually. But I think that's what I saw a little bit. But, Sean, I don't think it was as bad as you want it to be. The thing that is difficult is when you turn the ball over as much as they did early in the game, it's really hard to get into a rhythm. I'm looking at the box score right now. What was it? It was two fumbles in the first half of that game, right? Yes. It was punt, downs, touchdown, fumble, punt, interception. It's hard, man. Like when you have these turnovers and whatnot. So I think another part of this comes down to what we've talked about now, what feels like a broken record, and I hate bringing it up all the time, but Texas Tech just didn't really respect Utah's passing game. And there were extra guys around the box. They were keyed up to make sure to take away the quarterback runs, especially, right? And there was just no threat at all. Utah throwing the ball deep, and the one deep pass that was completed was unfortunately, brought back because of a lineman down the field.
Yeah, and that was Spencer Fano, which I know. Look, I don't want to harp on it too much, but when the guy who's supposed to be the best player on your team is the guy who commits the penalty that takes away a touchdown, it feels like it's more impactful when that happens.
What was that? By the way, was that an RPO or play action pass? I forget. I remember I was watching 4 games at the same time.
He did not. No, he didn't hear the play call. Yeah,
I just would have lied. I just been like I just messed up. Well, like
he said he's like I messed up, but he said I didn't hear the play call.
That's your first job.
I'm not arguing with you, obviously.
How do you know? How do you start the play if you don't know what you're doing?
Well, you tell me, right? Because are you just so talented? You're just like, well, I'm just gonna block whoever's there, and like I'm good
now I want to find. When was this?
In the first quarter.
I'm looking right now. So, was it on the touchdown drive?
It was the
no.
The touchdown got taken away. Their only touchdown was scored late in the game in the fourth quarter. This was the.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong. See, they have this. The ESPN box scores is not great. They're messing this up here. I'm trying to find. Oh, right here, ineligible. So 3rd and 5 with 5 minutes left in the first quarter. I don't have my iPad with me. Yes. I'm like so curious about this now. Because like, what do you do if you don't? I'm very fascinated by this. It's not even on the recap on YouTube either. I want to find the play. I want to see like what someone does when they don't know the play. I've never been in that spot, to be honest with you. I've always tried to know
You've
the
always
play.
tried
Oh,
to
here it
know
is right
what
here.
The play is.
I found it right here.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe he thought it was the run, not the pass, is my guess, because they're running like he's blocking this like they're running the ball, or like so they pull the left guard, right? It looks like they're running some sort of counter type play, right? Pull left guard, back follows the left guard, and the offensive line is blocking for the pass, and he's blocking for the run, but he is 9 yards downfield.
Yes. And he didn't dispute any of that. He was asked about it post game, and he was just like, "That's my fault. I didn't hear the call. I didn't know the call." And
So maybe he didn't hear it was the
he heard
pass.
it wrong, right?
It sounds like he heard the call wrong, is my
Right.
guess.
Yeah, I think that's more what he's saying than he didn't actually hear the call, but he didn't know the right play call, and so he blocked it. He blocked it wrong, and he got the touchdown called back. And look, the net for Fano is going to be positive all year long, obviously, but that was a huge moment in the game. And not only is it a scoring play, but it's a scoring play specifically in the manner with which people think you're not capable of scoring the football. It is a long pass. There's a guy behind the defense. It is the defense now has to respect that a little bit more, and unfortunately, it didn't play out there.
Yeah, that was actually like a really kind of crazy pass Dampier threw, like off a leg,
it was
one
insane.
leg,
and the adjustment, the Willie Mays style catch by Jackson Benny was beautiful. I mean, the adjustment to the ball and looking basically straight up and backwards over his own head when that thing drops into the basket, just an indication of what a great football player he is and has grown into for this Utah football team, which none of us had on our bingo card necessarily, but it's pretty cool.
But you need, obviously, like that has to be part of what Utah does moving forward. Look, you might not need it. I think it's West Virginia this week, right? You might not need it against West Virginia this week, but when you play the better teams in this conference, you're going to have to the defense has to respect that you can throw the ball down the field.
So it was revealed after the game, and this was part of the rumor mill heading into the game, that Devin Dampier did not practice Tuesday and Wednesday. And Kyle Whittingham volunteered that information, and then they put out a statement today because it wasn't on the injury report. And the justification was that, well, it didn't have to go on the injury report because there was never a question. It wasn't even probable that he was going to play. It was guaranteed that he was going to play. We were resting him for precautionary measures. And, it violates the spirit of the rule, not the letter of the rule, because Devin played and they always thought he was going to play. But it is something that becomes, a topic of conversation. So where do you stand?
Yeah. Look, I'm an NFL guy. Just give me the injury report. I don't, like it. I know you're trying to just, of course, hide this information from Texas Tech. And you don't owe us an obligation. You really don't, right, Sean? They don't owe us an obligation for this information. But I would have liked to know. Of course, I wasn't practicing for 2 days. would have been nice to know. I don't really like the way they're talking about it, where they're just saying like, their explanation, if that's what it is pretty lame. About why they didn't put him on the injury report. If it's required, I guess it's only required by status of game, and they knew he was going to play all week, so they didn't put him on the practice report. Is that what you said? Correct, basically, right? He was going to play. Okay. Yeah, I mean, okay. Look, man. This has been a multi-year thing with Utah now to be blunt, right, about not being forthcoming when it comes with injuries. And I'm not saying they have to be, and I guess no one really is, unless I think there's some conferences that do require actually more up-to-date information. Look, it doesn't owe us anything, Sean. It would have been nice to know. I probably would have changed who I picked in the game if I knew the quarterback hadn't practiced all week.
Well, I think that this is probably going to lead to a rule change for the Big 12 Conference. Right? This is a brand new thing, this mandatory injury report, right? And I think now they're going to make mandatory practice participation reports because people are upset about this, and especially bettors are upset about this. I put a poll question out like, hey, do you care about this as a fan? And it's kind of split. I think people who are more, like you're saying, from the NFL vein and on the betting side of things, they want transparency. They want to know. I think just the college football fan that's watching for the sake of watching is like, you got to let the coaches do what the coaches are going to do. There is obviously the influence of what you're alluding to the last couple of years where there wasn't transparency with injuries, and there's some fatigue in the market on that. But it's really interesting, the reaction to this game, the reaction to this loss, and a clearly compromised set of wheels for Devin Dampier has fans there was, after all the optimism of the first 3 weeks and then to lose the way that they lost.
Yeah.
It's wild to see how many people are just like, oh, it's happening again.
So just from like a PR perspective, right? So you don't want to make excuses for losing, obviously, but like if they knew your quarterback was hurt, it'd be like, oh, well, I mean, playing our butts off didn't work out. And then after the fact, it sounds like an excuse, right? Like beforehand, it's not an excuse, right? Like, hey, our quarterback isn't practicing 2 days. Which, by the way, we do get information from other teams on that. And there was a whole Lenore Sellers thing last week. The Ole Miss quarterback, I think there was a lot of talk about if he's going to play or not. Like, other people get that information out, Sean? And we have a good idea of what's going to happen in some of those situations. So, teams do let that out, and I think transparency in the situation just is best for everyone involved. Obviously, college coaches don't feel that same way because they just don't do it. If they did, if they felt it was good for all, they would let us know.
Jeff Schwartz is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, reacting to Utah, Texas Tech. One situation in this game that, in particular, I need to talk to you about, because there's no offensive rhythm the whole day, right? Everything is going bad. And then Utah builds a 75-yard drive, marches down in the fourth quarter, scores a touchdown, makes it look easy, pulls to within 3. Now, your defense has been dealing with short fields and turnovers and stopping, really playing from behind, your defense is, all day long.
Yeah.
And then finally, Jeff, the offense shows a sign of life. And they're excited. The fans are excited. The defense is excited. And then the defense goes out and allows Texas Tech in whatever it was, 6 plays to drive down and respond, and now you're back to where you started. Now you're down 10, and it felt like with time running down, it was in the fourth quarter, like that really was kind of the end of the game. There's still plenty of time to make something happen, but it was, you had inflated this balloon, and then you allowed them to just pop it. You've been on the sideline at every level, and you've been probably in situations like that where you as an offense aren't doing your part. The defense does, and then you finally catch up, and you do your part, and you score the touchdown. And now it's feasible. It feels even likely that you're going to get the ball back and you're going to go do it again. But instead, the defense falters. How does it feel? I mean, just take us inside the dynamics when something like that happens.
Well, it's obviously, a team game, right? So you're hoping that, you finally get that touchdown, make it 13-10, and defense has to hold, especially with a backup quarterback in the game, right, for Tech. You would think to yourself, like, we could just hold and we'll end up, being able to do enough to get back in this game. And, the hard part about defense, I think, is there's a tipping point of when they're on the field too much, Sean, and they just get tired. And that tipping point can happen like I think it did at the end of this game, where this is why, again, balance is important. Offense getting first downs, moving the ball down the field, because your defense, to me, just has sort of like a finite amount of plays before they get too tired. Offensively, like, our job is to score points. We can score as many points as we can, or try to, right? There's never like a fatigue factor when it comes to offense. I think defense there is. And looking right now, they just defended a 12-play drive, and then the Utah touchdown took 2 minutes, and they're back on the field after having the day they had. I think you just emotionally, physically get a little drained there, and it's tough to keep up. And maybe they let their guard down a little bit with the backup quarterback in the game. Obviously, Hammond played really well for Tech, but that's what I see, is just a little bit of fatigue on defense, which I think again is very normal. People might take this as like a slight, but it's really not.
Yeah, I think that explains it, but it just felt like that was the inflection point that really kind of decided the game ultimately. So I keep trying to dig in more to it to see if there's anything else to it. But I think it's as simple as you said. It's just like fatigue. You have so many reps, you have so many tackles, you have so many whatever in you. And when you run out of them, whether it's in the third quarter or the fourth quarter or in overtime, you just run out, and there's not a lot you can do.
And this is the again when we talk about like balance, right? You just if you're balanced and you're able to have offense on the field, score points, you do on the field, it all matters. This is why to me it all matters.
Okay, so play out a hypothetical with me. You're a veteran offensive lineman on this team. You have not had your best game against Texas Tech, but you know that moving forward, especially West Virginia road trip, this is absolutely must win. You were aware that your quarterback didn't play in a couple days of practice. You were aware that he wasn't quite himself in the game. And there's probably a question about whether or not he's 100% now. You have a bye week after this, and your freshman backup has played pretty well. You're going against a team that you should outmatch, especially if you as a veteran offensive lineman do your job. How close to 100% do you need your starting quarterback to be to where you still want him to go, knowing everything that comes with that, or you as a player, not the coach, you as a player, we're like, all right, let's do this with the backup and let our quarterback, our starter, let him get healthy for, the bye week, through the bye week, and then Arizona State, BYU, and beyond.
Yeah. Sorry about him. My kids just got home, I think, from the airport. They went to Seattle. I think you saw that they went fishing. I think I sent you the picture.
Yeah, you sent us a picture of your
Norm,
hilarious son catching fish. That's awesome.
A salmon, and the salmon just like arrived back too. By the way, it just got here. So I look. I think that you're gonna always choose your starter, in my opinion, in that position. Backups are backups for a reason, and it's just, it's hard to, I think, sometimes to go into a game thinking the backup is going to be, a big reason why you have success. Now, look, if you practice with the backup all week, it makes it a little bit different. But, this offensive line has been with Dampier since the spring, right, Sean? Yeah. Like, it's been, he's been your guy. And there's often is a big difference between the starter and the backup. Now, you're on the road, right? And you would want the starter just for communication, for comfort and comfortability. Now, West Virginia, I think, is pretty bad. And you could probably just say, make this an offensive line game and run the football, which I think they're going to do anyways, and end up, being able to win. But you want your starter to play, in my opinion. If he's that beat up, he can't play. Certainly has happened before. But I think if Dampier can go, you'd rather have him. And look, there needs to be a continued connection with getting better, on offense. And I told you on this show, I told you my Bear Bets podcast, like my concern was what's always with Utah. And every game you have an opportunity, like this is an opportunity to work on your passing game. And if Dampier's not in there, then it's one less opportunity to do that, to get ready to play better opponents. You're going to have a passing game against better opponents. This number, by the way, is Utah's favored by, it's up to 13.5 now. It was much lower earlier this week. I thought the number was super low.
The first one I actually saw was 11, I think.
Yeah, so I think it's up to 13.5 now, which I think Utah handles business and at that number. But what's this? I mean, psyche of the team, I think, is important to note. It's a pretty. I was, that's the first. The first home loss they've had like that since when? I mean, they don't really lose at home to when they're good and someone else is good.
Well, the Oregon, everyone keeps comparing it to when your Ducks
2016
came in game day was here, and it was like two good teams, two ranked teams in 2023.
You smoked us though.
No, not in the home game.
Oh no! In Eugene, we won in Eugene. That was when Bo was hurt, right? He was sort of not going to play that game. That game, right?
No, the Bo Nix 35 to whatever it was game.
Oh, you're right. But you didn't have Cam Rising though, so that doesn't, to me, like that game doesn't count. You don't have a starting quarterback.
Yeah, fair. We don't. In any case, it was Utah, the Big 12 has been really bad. This is a stat. I don't even like repeating this stat, but Utah's like 0-5 against Big 12 opponents at home.
Well, so you're basically 0-1 with your starting quarterback.
Yeah. Well, and apparently he was injured. So I think to answer your question about what's the psyche of the team, I think that the psyche of the team is whatever Devin Dampier's health is, if I'm being honest. I think that, the guys who have been here and even the guys who weren't here are like kind of most of the important ones were associated with Devin Dampier at New Mexico, so they would feel the same way, but for a different reason. But if you've been at Utah and you've seen what happens when you don't have your starting quarterback, you're probably like, oh, well, this is going to suck. If you were with Devin at New Mexico and you saw how important he was to you at New Mexico and now you don't have him, you're probably like, this is going to suck. So I think, that, but that's the point of having veteran coaches. That's the point of having Morgan Scalley. That's the point of having Sharif Shaw. These guys are supposed to be able to get the most out of you when the conditions aren't perfect, and why the culture, and we say that word probably more often than anyone does because we convince ourselves that culture is what separates Utah football from other teams that are, on their same financial plane and their same, talent pool plane, and we hope it's true.
Well, I hope it's true too. The injury stuff is starting to piss me off now that they did this again. I didn't know that. I heard you. I connected right when you were taking text messages, I think, and I don't like that. Let's be more transparent.
Okay, so Jeff wants transparency. We'll put you down as a vote for full transparency.
I'm sure Kyle will take note of this and make sure that he listens
Yes.
to what Jeff Schwartz says.
100% he will.
Yeah.
Mike Gundy's out. How appealing is that job?
I think it's a good job if you and the boosters are on the same page. I mean, Mike Gundy was fighting this new way of college football.
Yeah.
You accept it or you die, man. I'll give Kyle Whittingham a lot of credit for that, right? Like, he is an older coach, and those coaches are cycling out right now of college football, and he's not. That's Kyle. And it impresses me that he continues to coach in this new era. And Gundy just, even yesterday, there was some comment I saw. He's like, I wouldn't have the sport this way. I'm like, oh, dude, shut up. Like, just get over it, man.
Well,
and look, he won one of his last 12 games. He was 0-9 to finish last season, and they beat who they beat this year. Some podunk team that got blown out by Oregon and Tulsa. Gundy had to go. This was it. There was no other chance for him.
Is Dabo headed the same direction? He gets a longer leash because he's won natties, but is the same thing going to happen with Dabo?
Not this year, I don't think, unless they have like a really bad year. I mean, look, I remember Mark Helfrich did not win a championship, obviously, at Oregon, but he goes to championship in 2014. 2015 was not as good, but still good. And then 2016, they went 4-8, and they lost to Oregon State and Washington State, and like it was it. Like, he had to go. Like, I think a lot of times you might give him that one more year, but very clearly it was time. And I do wonder if with Dabo, depending on how the season finishes, it might just be so bad that they just got to say we're moving on, and he'll probably find a job immediately afterwards and be fine. But that's my guess, Sean, is like if it can get so bad they decide to move on. I'm curious if we get to that point. Look, I just I saw one of his comments too that was like just sort of, this is the will of the Almighty, and like I'm just like, I get it, but you're a football coach, man. Like, you're accountable to the players and the staff and everything. Like, you got to fix the problems. If it was that easy, we'd all get what we wanted, right? We'd all just get whatever we prayed for, and it's not the way it works. You have to, so like that type of, to me, I know people disagree with me. It's probably bad to say this on Salt Lake City radio, but like that's skirting accountability, right? When you say that this is what the Almighty has in front of us. No, like you have to change it. You're the head coach of Clemson. You have to make the change, or whatever the change is. You have to do it. You have to find. They're playing uninspired football right now, and to me, those comments skirt responsibility when things start going poorly, and I just don't like the vibe from that program right now.
UCLA, Oklahoma State, or Virginia Tech, what are you taking if you get all three offers?
Oklahoma State probably first.
All right.
I'm impartial to UCLA, obviously, and UCLA, you just have to get the funding, man. You have to you gotta walk up to Casey Wasserman and be like, what's the plan, man? Are we in? Like, what are we doing? How do we get alumni involved? What's the plan to keep talent? They've had talent. They've had a lot of players drafted, but then you let Dante Moore leave, you let Kamari Ramsey leave, and you just don't have talent. I'm actually curious about them this weekend at Northwestern. Northwestern's like a touchdown favorite. They're not better than UCLA. I mean, UCLA just hasn't played well. It's kind of a curious game for me. And then Virginia Tech will be third for me. But UCLA is intriguing. I'm curious who wants that job, who gets that job, and how they manage that one.
Last thing before I let you go, Jackson Dart, as you know, played his high school ball here in Utah. Is he going to be better than Russell Wilson has been for the Giants?
Can't be worse. Russell Wilson threw a pass that went from about what he threw the ball from the 10, that went, and he's in the middle of the field, that went up a tunnel on the field. Okay? Like, that was bad. That was bad.
You're not supposed to throw it way out of the end zone?
No. Oh. And no one was open. It was a terrible design. They ran like all sticks, all hitches, whatever you want to call it, all curls on first down against man coverage, with no one who could beat man coverage, really. His neighbors can't. He threw that ball like it was so bad. So bad. It can't be worse. But they got the Chargers. It's a tough opponent. So, but I think you just have to, you gotta do it. Like the idea that just wait till they play the Saints next week. Why wait? There's no points. The NFL, man, you play tough opponents every week, and you have a home game. Like, your fans we're going to boo so loudly the second Wilson threw one bad pass. So just play Dart and make it happen.
Looking forward to seeing those results, and obviously everything that happens this weekend. I'm going to France, so I'll holler at you next week. All right?
You're going to miss Oregon, Penn State? How dare you?
I'll catch up on the back end. I'll watch the YouTube recap.
This is the week you invited us to France, I remember. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you're not coming though, are you?
No, Meredith said she doesn't like France. No, she just forgot. Oh. And she's been out of town. They'll be here 7th straight weekend out of town this weekend. It's crazy.
Dubai next weekend if you want to come to those fights.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Maybe.
All right.
I'll look at my schedule.
Maybe pretty much always means no. To quote the great Jack Johnson.
We saw each other once. It's okay.
Yeah.
One's enough. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
That's
Bye. Jeff
Schwartz, college football, NFL, and sports wagering expert. Now, I love talking with Jeff because he is unemotional about all of the things. You know what he's not unemotional about, though? Feeling like he's being lied to. You just heard him say it upsets him now that there's this gamesmanship happening with the Utah injury report. I am unbothered by it. I've gotten to a point where I know enough about this program, and I think this is, of course, because it's my opinion, I think this is how fans should feel. But I've gotten to a point where it's like, all right, we know that we're not going to get full transparency from a guy who thinks that there's an advantage to not giving full transparency. Okay, I think Kyle Whittingham is a good football coach who, on balance, is going to give you better results than you would get with somebody else. So if this is something you have to deal with in order to have Kyle Whittingham as your head coach, to me it's not enough that it bothers me even to where I'm thinking about it when I leave the show today. There are fans out there that are just like, how could you do this to us again? And I'm just like, I acknowledge that doing it with the Cam Rising situation, the way they did it, was a mistake. I think that was a pretty serious mistake. I think it didn't help Cam. I didn't think it didn't ultimately help the team. I don't think what you're seeing here is the same thing. Cam's knee got demolished, and he had a complicated surgery. And they just didn't let us know about that because they wanted to make people think he was going to play a full year before he was able to play. Like, it was insane. But this is not the same thing, so I'm not bothered the way that bettors are and that some of you fans are I acknowledge your feelings, and I don't blame you for feeling that way, I guess. My viewpoint is you take it all as one giant, you take the macro view. The one big package is we know that if Kyle Whittingham is the coach, you're probably not the biggest downfield threat type offense. Whether that's his fault or not, we could have another debate about, but it's just like that's the reality of the situation because elite wide receivers are not coming to Utah because of the reputation the program has, and the program has a reputation because of the head coach's reputation, right? So you're not getting those guys all that often. Although you had one last year, you just didn't have a quarterback to like Dorian Singer, if he was here, would be a totally different story, but I'm getting too far afield. You probably know you're not going to get full injury transparency. You probably know that you're not going to be the best downfield threat type offense, but you also probably know that your defense is going to be really damn good. You're going to run the ball effectively. And for the most part, the characters on the team are going to be folks you can mostly be proud of. So I'm like, all right, that's what it is. How often are you going to compete for a conference championship? Hopefully every other year, every third year. It's hopefully right now, but we'll see. Before we take a break, I got to remind you, this time of year, your energy efficiency in your home is becoming more and more important. You've got hot days followed by really cold days. You've got snow coming right around the corner. 5 or 6 weeks from now, you're going to have snow on your roof, on your lawn, and blowing against your windows. Hopefully, those windows are new, replacement, high-quality vinyl windows from our friends at Advanced Window Products. 801-850-9100, $2,500 off 10 windows or more. The mayor of Sac Lake City, Nate Orchard, Jake Weber, they've now taken over this company that has been doing it right for decades. They'll do it right for you for the next 2 or 3 decades as well. And when the next person takes over, the standard will have been set, so that person is going to take care of you and make sure that the lifetime warranty offered on your windows is guaranteed, is serviced. Lifetime warranty. That means Nate Orchard and Jake Weber have been doing warranty services, replacing windows from companies, from on people's houses, from before they even worked for the company. That's the type of people they are. That's the type of promise a lifetime warranty from Advanced Window Products is. 801-850-9100. Manufactured, measured, sold, installed, all by a Salt Lake City company, and then the lifetime of your home, the lifetime of your windows, they are covered for life. $2,500 off, 10 windows or more. Get on the schedule right now. Takes about 5-6 weeks for them to actually be installed. Increases the value of your home, increases the energy efficiency of your home, the beauty of your home, peace of mind. Give them a call now. Tell them OC sent you at advancedwindows.com or 801-850-9100. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. I want to say I really appreciate the interaction we have with our listeners here on the Sean O'Connell Show. 9653. Not quite airing grievances, but just getting some stuff off the chest today. I'm here for you. I'm listening. I'm reading your stuff. The suggestions that we all have as fans, right? Here's what's interesting. There's hindsight every time you watch a game, every time, especially you watch a loss. There's always these hindsight moments we have. It seems obvious. Why aren't you attacking the middle of the field? Kyle Whittingham in the weekly press conference came out and said, we went and we self-studied and we realized if this offensive line is going to be as good as we think it should be, then we need to just run downhill more. We need to let them bully people. He didn't say exactly that, but effectively that's what it translates to. And probably most of us, most of you were out there going, yeah, obviously, let's go. The lateral stuff wasn't working. Stretching the field and going sideline to sideline, that's not working against a fast defense. Obviously, right? We always feel like these hindsight things are so obvious. You don't always have a coaching staff that is willing to say, we screwed this up and we're going to get this better, and here's the specific thing you were bothered by. We're going to make it better. That's something that you need to be looking for in the West Virginia game. The things I'm looking closest at in this West Virginia game is Hunter Andrews playing. I hope he's healthy. We don't know. Is Devin Dampier playing, obviously, first and foremost? And if he is, does he look like he can run? Does he look like he's full strength, Devin Dampier? If he's healthy, is he confident? Because first 3 weeks, doesn't throw an interception. Week 4, biggest game, national spotlight, throws 2. I don't think he's the type that is going to let that game bother him twice, but I don't know. We don't know. I'm looking for that. And, of course, I'm looking for, does the team tackle better against West Virginia? Not just because West Virginia isn't quite as talented as Texas Tech, but do players come to balance better? Do they keep their heads up better? When they get their arms on somebody, do the arms stay on somebody better? Do we see corners and slot corners like planting their feet, waiting for someone to come and then just diving one direction? Or do they actually chop their feet and run through the tackle? That was a huge problem this last week. That's what I'm looking for. I'm also looking for Kyle Whittingham and Jason Beck and the offensive linemen have said, we got to go north-south. We got to get that kind of push. Is that what the play calling reflects? Is that what the play itself reflects? Is that what they do against West Virginia in Morgantown? That's what I'm looking for in this game. All right. We got one more, right, James?
Yeah, one more segment. BGR gift card.
Burgers Grilled Right, BGR in Sugar House, provided us with the Sugar House burger today. Here's the thing. I'm going to ask you a trivia question next, 877-353-0700. If you get it right, you're going to get 10% off when you mention the Sean O'Connell Show when you go order at BGR. And my requirement is that you order the Sugar House burger that we had today. It was that good. Sliced apples, applewood bacon, spring mix, balsamic, and a perfectly grilled patty on a delightful Kraft bun. I promise you're going to love this burger. Trivia question next as we close things out on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. All right, I usually keep our trivia questions on the Sean O'Connell Show Utah related, but the biggest news in our world today is that there's a big opening in the Big 12 Conference. Mike Gundy, breaking news at the very beginning of the show. Mike Gundy has been fired at Oklahoma State University. Cowboys are off to a 1-2 start. That makes, I think he's 1-11 in his last 12 games. That is a bad deal for a guy who's been in place for 20 and a half. This is his 21st season. Going on 21 years in the head coaching position. He was the second longest tenured coach in all of college football. Now that distinction belongs to Kyle Whittingham, who, by the way, hired the same year, just shortly after.
It was like a week apart.
So,
yeah. So technically the second longest, but basically a tie.
877-353-0700. BGR, Burgers Grilled Right, $10 gift card to enjoy the Sugar House burger like we had today. Or maybe you just want some tots. Maybe you just want some fries. Maybe you want some onion rings. Maybe you want everything. They've got the build your own burger. They've got their gourmet burgers. The Sugar House is the one we ate today. It was absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend it.
Maybe you want some frings.
Or frings, that's fries and onion rings.
Maybe you want to try what OC's going to try and get some Fringots.
BGR. When I walk in there and I'm like, hey, Sean O'Connell here, thanks for sponsoring the show. Fringots, please. You're going to know what to do.
Yeah. And if you don't, we're going to know you don't listen.
Well, they do listen. They listen. You know how we know they listen?
Well, you're right. They proved it to us.
In the hot lunch yesterday, I was reading the menu. I was like, ooh, I want this Sugar House burger. Guess what we got today? The Sugar House burger. So,
yeah, you know what? My bad. I'm sorry, BGR. Of course you're listening.
Head over to Wilmington, right in the heart of Sugar House, and BGR is going to hook you up with perfectly grilled burgers, delicious sides, 10% off your order if you mention the show, and we have a gift card for you if you can answer this question. How many conference championships did Mike Gundy win as the head coach of Oklahoma State University? We talked about it earlier on the show.
Yeah.
How many conference championships did he win in his 20-plus years as the head coach for the Cowboys?
More like Mike Gandhi.
No, James.
Gone.
I know that. I know what you mean.
Not Gandhi.
Not like Mahatma Gandhi. No, it's like gone. G-O-N-D. Here's another question. There's a lot of questions.
Well, there's an E in there too.
Here's an interesting question here. Does Mike Gundy coach again? He's 58, which for coaches is young.
Yeah,
coaches are very much creatures of habit. He has showed, though, in this last year and a half, 2 years, that he's kind of cantankerous. He's a little obstinate. You want to go a little Shawshank Redemption on this? Why are you being so obtuse? He just doesn't really want to embrace the way things are in college football, and he doesn't have to work. Oklahoma State owes him another $15 million, and they've already paid him like $60 million plus. He's fine financially.
Yeah. I love the Shawshank reference. Isn't this the anniversary of Shawshank? 30 years or something?
I don't know.
I think I saw that somewhere today.
Like at the end of the day, and Mike Gundy's one of those guys that might be better positioned because he is willing to say what he believes.
Yeah.
He might be the perfect media personality as a former head coach.
I think he'll try because he's young enough to coach for a while longer. I think he's going to try to get other coaching jobs. I'm not sure he will. But I think media is a no-brainer for him.
I think it's more likely he ends up in media than that he ends up at another, cuz I'm thinking for him he probably would like to coach again, but if you're an athletic director, especially you get fired at a place like Oklahoma State, the most likely spot that you're going to get another shot is like a Utah State or something like that. If you're an athletic director at a spot like that, are you wanting to hire a 58-year-old coach who has been on public record many times now saying, like, I actually don't like paying kids. I actually don't like the way that this is going. I don't like that the boosters have so much power. It's like, that's the system we live in, dude.
And by the way, at least the last season and a quarter, his teams have been terrible.
And not because of lack of talent is the other thing that's scary. The thing that sucks is he had Ollie Gordon, who's showing that he could still be Ollie Gordon-esque in the NFL. You had the Doak Walker Award winner. You were in a conference championship game in 2023, and then in 2024, you stunk, and in 2025, the limited sample size is that you stunk. And by the way, not only did you stink, but you poked a bear like Dan Lanning and Nike and Phil Knight.
Yeah,
whether it was accidental or not, and I do think that got somewhat overblown but he was just like, well, yeah, they have more money than us, so obviously, and Dan Lanning was just like, well, you have more money than everyone you're playing except us. Like, he was the highest paid coach in the land.
Yeah,
aside from Dion.
I just don't think that he's an attractive coaching hire for those reasons you laid out, and just for the main reason, the most important reason is he's not a winning coach right now, which is why he was fired. I mean, yes, you can say maybe if they stick it out, maybe if he's allowed to stick it out the rest of the season, they're not a bowl team. I'm not even going to go there. He's not a winning coach right now, and he has been outspoken against the way things are in this new era of college football, which tells you, why would anyone have any trust in having that guy lead your program in this new era of college football that he is saying he doesn't want to be a part of?
Second to last in the Big 12 Conference this year in total offense. Dead last in scoring offense. 13th in rushing offense. There's just nothing happening right now at Oklahoma State, and so
we could be wrong though.
You're fired.
We could be wrong though. Maybe a group of five school.
I've ever been wrong.
Maybe a group of five school takes a chance on him. I just don't know.
I mean, obviously that would be the natural, but like
FCS, I guess.
Why would you want like that? That's the thing is if it's just it kind of went south and sour and you had a hard time winning, like. Okay, that happens, right? And we've seen plenty of guys that the fit and the location matters. Sonny Dykes is killing it right now at TCU. He killed it at Louisiana Tech. He's killing it at TCU. He killed it at SMU. He had a really hard time at Cal. He sucked at Cal. The fit matters, right? But why are you going to take a chance on saying, all right, this guy fits here if the guy, like you said and like I've said, is rejecting the way of things in 2025.
When he's 58 is not very old for a head college football coach, but it's also not. You're also not a shiny new toy.
Yeah.
So right. There's just so many reasons why this is not the right. It doesn't feel like the right time for him to be able to get another head coaching job. But again, maybe we're wrong, and he settles. He'd probably have to settle for a lower level thing, FCS or a very lower level group of five to get back in there, to get back into the game a little bit. I think that I'm with you. I think that most likely he ends up having a really good media career.
Yeah, great media. I think he'd be really good in media, and he's got to grow like a full glorious mullet back. And
ESPN's probably calling his agent right now.
877-353-0700. How many conference championships did Mike Gundy win as the head man at Oklahoma State? If you have that answer, we've got a gift card to BGR Burgers Grilled Right in Sugar House. Thanks for listening. I am calling fights the rest of the week. James and company are holding it down. We've got Dishing with Dev for you still. We have Coordinator's Corner for you still. We had a conversation with Morgan Scally. We've talked to Devin Dampier. Make sure you listen all week long. And stay tuned for The Drive on ESPN 700, 92 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network.